just a few difficulties, everybody. We will be starting this live stream shortly. Got a lot of WWE stuff to get to, and a good friend Tyler Lopes will be joining us. We will be starting this live stream very, very soon. Stay tuned. All right, everybody, welcome to the final episode of 2025 for Left Turns, Right Hooks. I'm your host, Dan Lindsay. Excited to have some fun here today. We are talking the best and worst of 2025. We'll get into more what we're talking about with that. And we have a few bold picks for 2026. Tyler Lopes will be joining me. You'll see us both on screen here soon. Just trying out this live stream very soon here for the both of us, and can actually take us live now. Tyler's mic is on, and I think we're live on YouTube. Tyler, this is a first for me and you on this channel. I think we've done that on your channel, but yeah, no, I'm excited to do this and excited to have you a part of it, as you've been a part of many of these episodes all year. Basically been my co-host without me saying you've been my co-host.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for having me back on. And yes, we did do this a couple times on my channel to mixed results logistics wise. Hopefully, yours has a little more luck audio wise or visual wise. I just hope everything goes as smoothly as possible. I will try my
Crossing
best
fingers.
not to screw it up for you, buddy. But I'm happy to be here. This is very exciting. I don't talk much wrestling other than where I work now, so it's nice to just have a sit down conversation about some fun wrestling that I don't necessarily have any stake in. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, no, we're gonna be talking a little bit current stuff. The Vision, finally we've seen Theory debut. We're gonna talk a little bit of John Cena. We got his retirement tour. We started last year this time. I think about a week ago on from this date. I released the first episode of our booking of the retirement tour, which was a ton of fun. I think we got
Yeah,
very little right outside of both of us putting the world championship and IC title on him. Though you did the right order, I did the incorrect order. That actually followed a little bit of your script, a little bit more of, hey, we'll just kind of take it on at the end. But didn't you put the IC title on him in your booking, or am I mistaken?
I did, but I didn't get the order right. I put the IC title on him first.
Did you do it first
I
as
had him
well? Okay.
losing. Yeah,
See,
I
I
had him
already
losing to
misremember
Cody
what we
Graham, and
did
then I
last
had
year.
him winning the world title in October. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was a year ago where we are. I'm lucky. I remember what I had for lunch this afternoon. To be honest with you, so it's all good. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I will say I feel like you probably got yours more right than I got mine because, I had this big kind of grandiose finish of, the I quit stipulation and
Hmm.
then him, kind of, I guess in a similar kind of way to what they're probably going for, I guess, in real life, the like, I think this is it for me. I think I'm good.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll just say I quit for the right reasons. It's not because I couldn't keep going. It's because I've decided that it's the right thing to do. And yours, he just tapped. I mean, he tapped that mat, to somebody who obviously is unfortunately not even in the company anymore. But
yes.
regardless, you got the premise right, Dan. So at the end
True,
of the day, I feel like
true.
you probably would. If it was a battle of who would be more accurate, I think you got me.
I'm just happy that we did get at least to see him hoist both championships. I think the
Right.
Grand Slam title, while probably not necessary, was just a nice thing. I didn't think we actually were going to get it at the end of the tour here, and we didn't get all of the dream matches we wanted. Partly there wasn't the time. We'll get into that, and partly because some guys didn't come back into WWE, or that we might have been hoping. And I loved your grandiose thing. I really did. I truly did. Still too. So if anybody's watching this wants to see what we did, it's posted on my channel as a playlist, and Tyler did a very, very well done long form version that actually had a few additional items from the booking that we did. He did a very wonderful job on that. If you guys want to check that on his, I'll put the links. I'll put the links up on socials and stuff. Share that again. That was a great time. So we will talk Cena. I just thought of one other question I want to ask around John Cena. That I will ask when we get to that. But we will talk current vision, John Cena. We will then talk about our favorite, least favorite PLEs and matches. And then we will end with some bold predictions. I think when we were texting as a group earlier, I put like a number on it. I don't know if I'll stick that number. So I'm just gonna say we're gonna do bold predictions and leave it at that. I'm not gonna say a number. So we'll go from there. So let's first kind of get into something that I honestly came up with this kind of when I was watching Raw the other night. We finally got the addition of Austin Theory to the Vision. Long rumored. There's even the rumor that if Fatu wouldn't have been hurt, that we would have seen Fatu and Austin Theory at Survivor Series War Games for the War Games match instead of the Cody Drew that we got. But due to Fatu's injury, that's what we got there. So let's talk division a little bit. Do we like the addition of Theory, Austin Theory? I guess he's back to Austin Theory because that's how Paul Heyman introduced him. And if Paul Heyman says something, it's how we're gonna call him. And then the vision I was thinking too of when they were coming out, all five of them, you know, are we closer to? Are they more of a version of a faction that's closer to the realm of DX and Evolution and really, really good factions that fall in that category, or more of the NWO where it's just constant revolving members and Nexus, which was like, both I think factions were like 20 people when it all comes down to it. I feel and I'm exaggerating on the Nexus because they weren't that big, but the Nexus, the NWO, there's a lot of revolving doors with those. But yeah, I'll start with the addition of Austin Theory. What are your thoughts? Are you excited for this? Are you glad to find that we finally have this, or are you just kind of like whatever?
Yeah, I am excited for this. I think this is something that I've personally kind of wanted for a while. I think this is something that makes sense. This is a guy that fits the timetable of the Vision. I think now the guy that doesn't fit the timetable of the Vision the most is Bronson Reed, and I feel like
Hmm.
um, outside of recently, I think Bronson's kind of benefited the most out of this group. Obviously, the one who beat Roman Reigns, right? Like this is
Hmm.
a guy that's had the biggest moments so far. Although obviously now Braun Breaker is taking that step to being in the forefront. Obviously now going to be getting a championship match here soon. So I I think Theory fits that timeline really well. I think he fits kind of exactly what the Vision is going for,
Hmm.
which is this is the vision for the future. It's these three guys running the company in the way that they see fit through whatever their dominant aspect is going to be. Obviously, for Bronson Reed, it's just size and strength and brute force. With Braun Breaker, it's absolute freakish athleticism and unrivaled intensity that few can actually match. And then with
Yep.
Austin Theory, let's be honest, guys, you might not like the personality, you might not like the body of work, you might not take the character super seriously as of right now, but the guy can do just about anything there is to do in a wrestling ring. One of the
Hmm.
beautiful things about where I work at World Wrestling Network is World Wrestling Network actually used to be the company that had Evolve before WWE
Okay.
purchased Evolve. So I have now, over the last couple of months, had an opportunity to learn more things about the history of Evolve than I figured I would, because obviously I wasn't even aware that they were the ones that had Evolve before WWE. So one thing that I learned was even back then, even back years and years and years in the past, Austin Theory was the guy that Paul Heyman was very high on. Even back when he was in Evolve, when he was the Evolve men's champion, right? Like this is somebody that Paul has had on his radar for a long, long time. Now, is WWE playing into that aspect as of yet? No, but who knows? Maybe they will.
Hmm.
But either way, this is as much something that's playing out on screen as it is off screen because Paul Heyman was the one that was vouching to the company this is going to be one of the guys that you're going to build the company around in years to come. And this is when Austin Theory was like 19 or 20 years old. Like this is pretty much right before he joins NXT. So this is something that has been brewing for a long time. I think it's a perfect fit. Obviously, that means Paul Heyman and Austin Theory are very familiar with one another, and they want to do their best for one another. So
Hmm.
I think it's a really, really good thing for Theory. for the group, but I do want to address this. I It's Austin Theory, right? There's always that little bit. I am doing my best to kind of put that to the side because if we're going to give wrestlers a chance to actually break through the glass ceiling that they're trying to break through, if we're going to allow the company to retell the stories of these wrestlers to try to get their career moving, we have to get out of our own way as fans too, because all we've been doing is saying for years in his character. I don't really think that he believes in his character. I think he's too young. Maybe he's well. Guess what? He was doing really. I don't know where he got injured. You got to get out of your own way if you're fans. You got to let WWE retell this story. You have to do something to get that out of your mind if you're fans. I'm doing my best to get that out of the way. I hope you're doing the best to get that out of your way, Dan, because I was right, and the game in theory the proper room. This is the perfect thing for his career right now.
Yeah, no, I think it's we've gone from him being one of the last guys that Vince McMahon wanted to really, really put on a pedestal. And we've always known how that worked. It wasn't always great success for Vince at first, but it eventually got on the road, i.e. Roman Reigns. um, so like, theory is kind of that, that newest, was that last one, and he got buried pretty quickly very early on in the Triple H takeover of everything, and very
Yeah.
kind of humorously, and almost where you feel bad for him in a way, because it's he had his, Roman put him down pretty quick, and then he had his run with The Rock not that long after, and Rock put him down pretty quick. And then he went into a tag team with Grayson Waller that never ever really seemed to take off ever. Um, Honestly, I didn't look this up, but I have to look this up. I don't even know if they had more than a dozen matches as a tag team, if that. Honestly, I feel like they're always
I mean,
around.
they were tag team champions and they won the tag team titles at WrestleMania. So I would, I
Yeah,
would, I would disagree a little bit with you on the never taking off. I don't think it ever took off in the minds of like, oh, this is one of the best tag teams in the company. I'm really over. I don't think that ever really happened. I agree with you there, but I
they
mean,
were
this was
forgettable champions,
the
though.
company tried for sure. The company tried to
Yeah,
get. It wasn't from a lack of effort on the company's part to try to get them over. I think the company did a halfway decent job of at least putting them in positions to get themselves over. And again, it's just one of those things where Theory didn't take advantage of that opportunity until the very end, right before he started getting injured, where he actually started getting babyface reactions and good guy reactions, and people were wanting to see him turn on Grayson Waller, and then
yeah.
he got hurt, and then Grayson Waller just went, "Oh, that guy sucks anyway," and then moved on, and
Moved
that's
on to
all we
New
got
Day of
out of
all
him.
teams.
So yeah, it's basically what they did with it.
Yeah,
It is what it is, and
I'm
that's
willing
a
to.
shame
Yeah,
because it was actually finally starting to pick up steam.
yeah, and I'm willing to give us a shot. I mean, anything that Paul Heyman is attached to, I'm for it. I think it'd be a discussion about Bronson Reed. How long does he kind of stay now? Maybe, possibly.
Yeah,
It's and that's where I kind of devolve into that second question of like, well, is this more of a possibility of potential of, I think maybe is probably the best word, of hitting that DX Evolution Shield level, or is this going to be more of the NWO and Nexus where it's a stable that Paul Heyman has, but one or two players are always going to be changing out like every 3 months, 6 months because Braun doesn't like someone, or whomever, or Theory doesn't like someone. I do find it interesting that I feel like the Logan Paul thing was more of a Logan's taking the opportunity. He's being very opportunistic, staying within his character. And Paul's like, sure, why not? Might as well have this guy in my corner instead of against me. Whereas I feel like there's a stronger bonds between um, Braun Breaker and Paul, and from what you just said, Austin Theory and Paul. So whereas like this could eventually, devolve where this to me almost could be that NWO where it's like we do have revolving members. Bronson and Braun eventually, have a feud or something. Maybe if, and I don't want to spoil something too much of what I want to say for the beginning of the year, but if Breaker doesn't win the championship here in a week, do Braun and Bronson kind of go at it a little bit, or is that later down the road if one of them, if Braun does have the championship, it's like, does Bronson get envious kind of thing? I think you can break him off easily, because Bronson was kind of more the Seth guy. I feel like either we had a discussion or is a discussion kind of out on the interwebs of Bronson Reed, being a Seth guy, where Braun was the too many B's and Brons. Oh my word, where Braun was more the Paul Heyman guy, Braun Bronze. Um, so it's like,
Yep.
that was always, I thought, something that was going to come to play more, and maybe it will when Seth comes back. Whenever he comes back. So I think it's very interesting. I think Logan could be very pushed off very easily, or or whatever. Because I feel, but again, you know, I think if this does kind of go more of the NWO idea, people change it out every once in a while. I think Breaker and Theory, Awesome Theory version here, will be the mainstays in the group. I think at least for the next year and a half. And then maybe dissolve. Maybe Paul's like, I'm tired of these guys, and I'm gonna go back to being the wise man. I don't know, which I thought was interesting. Austin Theory called him the wise man, not the Oracle on Monday, but that's neither here nor there. What are your thoughts here, and where you consider him a stable? And it's young. I mean, it's not even a year old stable yet.
Yeah. I think this is much closer to an evolution situation than it would be for an NWO or a Nexus situation. I think with the Nexus situation, I think it's pretty common knowledge that WWE shot themselves in the foot over and over again when it came to the Nexus. This was a team that very clearly was going to be just 7 guys that were going to just dominate and beat the crap out of everybody, and they were brothers and they were going to stick together. And then they lost, and then they lost again, and then again and again and again and again and again, and then they disbanded, and then they split into 2 parties. And
I forgot about
but
that.
everything that, yep, yep, new Nexus core, both horrible. So yeah, great. But I think WWE kind of shot themselves in the foot and then decided to do that out of pure necessity, like sitting there with this awesome group, and you completely blew it. And I don't, hopefully, foresee WWE doing the same thing here. So I don't see any reason for them to be compared to Nexus in terms of that. So for me, I think that for the group was for it to be basically the new version of Evolution, with Paul Heyman that Ric Flair role, albeit Ric Flair did actually wrestle at times during that initial Evolution run, famously winning the I don't know if he won the IC title while he was with Evolution, but won the IC title around that time. And then he also won the tag titles with Batista at one point as well. So he was wrestling and it was getting physical. Obviously, Paul Heyman won't. But then Seth being in that Triple H role, the kind of patriarch of the group, the head of the group that's going to have the world titles, is going to be the leader. And then you got the Bronze, who are essentially the Batista and the Randy Orton of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, pivoting to what is essentially going to be Plan B. It's still going to be as close to Evolution as you would think, except for the fact that there's more than 2 young guys, whereas you just had the 2 young guys in Evolution. I think now it's just going to be more of Paul Heyman's kind of lead disciples into the future, basically saying, I am the Oracle. I am the way, and you will follow me, and I will lead you to the future. And we'll see where that goes, because who do they, when eventually they want to turn, do they just turn on a 60-plus-year-old Paul Heyman? Like, are they going to bring back like another leader into this group that's like going to kind of like take over the thing
Mm-hmm.
against the will of Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed and Austin Theory, and then they're going to turn on that person? Like I wonder where they're going to go with this, but I'm very excited for it. I have long said that the Vision is, to me, the most interesting part is the most interesting act in the company, not on a week-to-week basis because it can get stale at times, but just in terms of the potential of what you can do with it, where it can go,
Yeah.
and then, crucially, what can happen and what it will bring to you on the back end if you do it right. Because if you do it right, you have a guy that's going to main event WrestleMania for the next 15 years in Braun Breaker. You've got a guy who could be a legitimate world champion in Bronson Reed that would be believable, that would be charismatic, and that would be a huge shakeup. And now you can also kind of re-crown the guy that Vince, you had mentioned earlier, crowned early on and late in his tenure, early on in Austin Theory's career, as the guy that was going to bring the company into the future anyway. So you can kind of prove that to be right. And then you've got another great guy. And then who knows? If Logan Paul is in the group, not in the group, I'm still not really sure necessarily if he's actually a part of the vision or if he's just kind of like following them around like a lost
He's definitely a lost puppy.
puppy, hoping that they don't throw him back in the kennel. But regardless, I am very excited to see where Vision goes in 2026. I think it could be great. And I think, again, if you do it right, you got a lot of good that could come out of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think I've said this before on here, to you for sure. And to me, this is like the epitome of a faction that really needs to hold all the gold. And the Usos just got the tag titles. So, I mean, to me, that just sets up a great matchup of Bronson Reed and Austin Theory, Bronson, or even Bronson and Logan, or Theory and Logan. Whom you could take any of those, a combination of any of those three, and have them in the tag title division that kind of needs another team. This doesn't necessarily, because you have Dragon Styles, you have War Raiders, you have New Day and stuff, and the Usos, of course, with champions. But hope and tag teams isn't great. It's not horrible. Pending any NXT call ups and stuff. But I feel it's maybe this is the way that we can finally get a tag team out of the vision. Where they're all kind of all for one, as kind of Paul Heyman's helping each other. But it's like, let's split them off. I mean, Bronson or Austin Theory. Honestly, as I'm saying this, I think I'd rather see the IC title on someone like Bronson. But even Theory with the IC title wouldn't be a bad thing at all. Another picture that kind of needs a little bit of addition and refresh again, because I mean, it's Dominic and Cena, but and we'll get to Cena here in a minute. I feel like now that we're past the retirement tour, we can really, really dive back into some of these stories that kind of they're either put on hold, or we can refocus some of these pools of talent around certain titles a little bit more, because the how Cena needed to be involved in a lot of these pictures is now done. The aftermath is done for the most part, I think. So so we can kind of get back to focusing on those, and the vision is hopefully a catalyst to that. I'm hoping they are closer to more of that evolution. They do seem to fit that mold with the different people, as you mentioned. In that, I don't think they're unless unless it gets to the revolving door, I would I might lean them towards more, and the NWO was still dominant, but they were still like so many people always coming in and out, especially towards the end. It seems like. But I'm hoping that the potential is to be so dominant and to be listed as one of the best factions in WWE history. And I'd much rather see the guys in this group listed in that group over listed in the group of the teams of the faction we make fun of, like NWO and Nexus. And
Of course.
I'm sure there's others that we make fun of that I'm not coming to mind right away. But yeah, I'm definitely with you and hoping that the potential sure does seem there to be more of evolution style, than the bad faction. So good luck to them, and I hope it. And speaking of John Cena, it's time to talk about John Cena. We had a lot of ups and downs with this. We had a lot of discussions, arguments, debates throughout this. One of the, we will talk. Very curious on what you think are the best and worst moments of Cena's retirement tour. This can be anything, press conferences, promos, whatever. And the best and worst matches of the retirement tour. I think the big storyline is definitely um, the heel turn. We got a lot of things that happened that were never ever paid off, and that's unfortunate. Kind of makes me wish it never happened. Um, You know, and I think I continually defended WWE. I shouldn't say I think. I know I continually defended the storyline. It's gonna pay off. It's gonna pay off. It didn't. I will talk about that more. But I want to kick it to you. What was your best moment of the John Cena retirement tour for you?
So, do you want me to do best moment first or worst moment first?
I mean, if you want to do worst moment first, that's fine. Whichever is easier for you here.
Okay, okay. So either one, I'm good. Okay. Um, so worst moment is hard for me because I don't really look at this retirement tour as having like one horrible like god awful moment. You know, like it did. There wasn't any one like awful thing that happened where you're like, oh god, like why would they do that? That was the stupidest thing. There wasn't any of that. It was just it was a lot of for me, right? I can't speak for everybody. I can't speak for you. But for me, it was a lot of moments that happened that could have been a little better had they done it a little differently or had stuff earlier not been the way it was.
Hmm.
So I think that's mainly because I've been very public of saying I was not a big fan of this retirement tour. I truly feel like, and again, people are going to take this and run with it, and that's totally fine. I don't really care what people think about that kind of stuff. It's going to sound egotistical to some people. That's fine. I truly feel like I cared more and you cared more in our bookings about the sanctity of John Cena and his career and his character than WWE did when they actually booked this stuff.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely did.
Like the amount of stuff, and I know I'm getting off in a little bit of a rant here. I promise I'll circle back around right after this. But the fact that I have heard so much about how little things were planned during this thing, and then hearing John Cena in a conversation with CVV on his podcast and his YouTube channel saying that they knew in 2022 that John Cena was going to retire in 2025. They didn't have 18 months to do this. They had 3+ years to figure this thing out, and they still so haphazardly just threw a bunch of random stuff together and didn't plan to lead up to anything. That is what I have a problem with more than any one individual bad moment or okay moment. Now, a lot of to answer your question about what the worst individual moment was, a lot of people are gonna say that the him and the Punk promo where Punk comes out as Dr. Thugonomics and does a rap that's not all that great. And, you know, I actually enjoyed
Yes, I did too.
that segment. So I might be in the minority, you know, because that was the kind of the John Cena that I fell in love with initially when I was a kid was the Dr. Thugonomics. So anytime that comes back around, even if it's like not super great, I always just find it fun. I love the theme song. So maybe I'm just, you know, the happy go lucky guy in the minority on that. That's totally fine. For me, the worst moment of the retirement tour was actually kind of intertwined with a match. It was when uh, um it was when John Cena had beaten R Truth in like 3 minutes on a premium live event. I don't even remember which one at this point. And then immediately upon beating him, basically goes backstage and then starts yelling at Jey Uso for like no reason. And then Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes go out and have a match, have a tag match against Logan Paul and I think Drew McIntyre.
Sounds right. Sounds right.
And then Cena interferes, and then they use that to parlay into another tag match where it's going to be Cena and Logan Paul against I think it was Cody and Jay, I
Hmm.
think.
Yeah.
And Cody had come back. And I just sat there and went, really? Like, we're just wasting time. There's nothing to any of this. And it just, you know, I wasn't a fan of that. And what it did was it to me, it confirmed that they just no matter what the plan was with our truth at that time, and I think now, obviously, as we're looking back on it now, clearly they did not have a plan at all for it. It really was just super haphazard and last minute, and maybe that was a Cena call. And if it is, okay, I understand. You know, you wanted it, fine. Let him do whatever he wants on his retirement tour. It's fine with me. But if it wasn't, then man, the people like me that were saying, why in the world is he wasting a month of his 12-month retirement tour facing R-Truth, which does nothing for no one outside of a couple of fun moments individually in the match that there's sure to be, right? And those are always nice. But who does it help? It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help further a story. It doesn't help further another wrestler's career. It doesn't help it didn't help figure out John Cena as a character, which is what we were all kind of hoping for, that there was going to be some kind of moment where he would kind of turn back face in that match and, you know, realize he'd done wrong, and R-Truth was going to be the guy that shook him out of it. No, he literally immediately went backstage and started cutting a heel promo on Jey Uso as if R-Truth meant nothing to him, because apparently he did. He meant nothing, which that is what makes it the worst moment to me. It was nothing for nobody. It was a fine match. There was fun moments. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But that moment confirmed to me when I heard him talking to Jey Uso, I was like, why did they do any of this? He could have had him face other really fun young guys. He could have faced Drew McIntyre. He could have faced anybody, but he faced R-Truth, and it was for nothing to me. So that was the worst moment. Did you? I don't know how you're wanting to do this, Dan. Do you want me to now talk about the best moment, or do you want to say your?
I mean, I kind of want to jump in on the worst moment here too, just because I think it kind of works with you. Something that you said about, we were trying to, we were hoping that Truth would be the one to help him turn back face. His moment of actually turning face fell so flat, and if you blinked, you missed it. It was on a Friday night SmackDown, and it was basically one line, I guess, into Cody. Is like, oh, I guess I'm fine again. I guess I'm fine. I guess I'm good. I'm a good guy now. I don't remember the exact line, but that was basically the gist. And I was like, wait, what? Is he he is a face now? We're gonna have these two have their rematch, face versus face?
Yeah.
What? What's going on? And it was all pretty much just a service to, oh hey, Brock's back. And to me, that was kind of the worst moment because of what it led to. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah. So sorry, Dan. I'm getting
You're
a lot of
fine.
lag on my end. I apologize if it sounds like I'm interrupting to you, because on my end it was paused, so I apologize. It felt like you had wrapped up, but maybe you didn't. Again, I'm getting a lot of lag, so I
You're
apologize
fine. You're
to
fine.
you guys at home as well if you guys are feeling the
Yeah.
effects of that. But yeah, so I'm gonna agree with you, and I'm also gonna disagree with you on one aspect of that. I think that the promo itself, where he turned face, was actually quite good. I actually almost said that as my favorite moment, it's not going to be, because I just think it was so actually well executed by Cena in terms of the words and in terms of what he said. But here is where I do agree with you. I think that it was very haphazard, thrown together, and it only is a face turn in hindsight after what happened at SummerSlam, because when I watched that, and I think a lot of people felt the same way, it was, does he actually mean what he's saying? Or is
Yes.
he going to come out at SummerSlam and stay heel, kick Cody in the balls again or whatever, or hit him with the title again and just be full-blown heel for even longer and just, basically ruse Cody again? Or is he actually going to be a good guy now? So I think that was really where it kind of not fell flat, because I think that the actual promo itself was done really well. I actually quite love it. I've gone back and watched it several times since then, because I just think it's so darn good, because John Cena's, I mean, he did an unbelievable job. But again, because of the context of the story, it could have been so much better if they had done it a little bit differently. But this is what I'm saying, right? What you think is your worst moment, which I disagree with with your premise on it was just one line or whatever. I actually think the promo was done quite well. But I can understand where you're like, this is that was the face turn. It was a face turn. That was the big John Cena face turn. I was confused. I I completely understand where you're coming from at that because it did have that aspect to it. So I again, I disagree with the quality aspect of your argument, but I agree with the confusion part of
Yeah.
the argument there. And yeah, I almost said Brock coming back because like that's just such a controversial thing to do. And the match that followed, I am in the
Oh,
minority for sure. And I actually said that that was the correct thing to do if you were going to put that match together, which was just have Brock destroy him. But they shouldn't have made the match because the only right thing to do is to have Brock destroy him. Like that's really my kind of main argument
hmm
is why would you do that? You know that he has to destroy him, right? Like, am I the only one that kind of see like I was literally looking around like, am I the
yeah.
only one who knows that Brock's gonna like murder him in 10 minutes? And that's exactly what he did, and everybody hated it. And I'm like,
Less than
yeah, this is
10.
why you shouldn't have done this match. So like but everybody was like, why would you do that? It's such a stupid thing to do. No, it isn't. It's the only thing you could
Yeah.
have done.
Yeah.
It's Brock Lesnar, and he just came back after like 2 years, and he looks like that. What he's going to do? Tap out? Like, no, he's going
Yeah.
to destroy him. He's 55. He's 48 years old. Like, Cena's 48. This isn't 35-year-old Super Cena anymore, guys. Like, this is
Yeah.
an old man on his last legs. Like, this is going to be pretty, right?
Yeah.
I almost picked that.
Yeah. I
So
think, and
I'm
with
with
the
you.
age thing, I think that's. I wonder if a lot of fans had that expectation of Cena where, oh, we'll still get Cena of old. We'll still get that Super Cena. We had a few moments of Super Cena here and there in some matches, not a lot of them, but in some of them. One I'll talk about here soon. But yeah, I'm in that group that should have seen that coming with Brock. That, oh, this is gonna be essentially a squash. I should have seen that coming. I still didn't, didn't care for the whole premise of everything surrounding Brock. And you go back to the CVV interview that you mentioned. I think we both talked about this. One day, just while we were in between jobs or whatever, and there's a lot of stuff like you said. They had 3 years to plan this. They knew in at least 3 years in advance because he was just that busy with Hollywood, and that makes sense. That's why we didn't see him for a few years. He was having these one-off announcements or matches and stuff that all makes sense. But to me, that also says it's like, wait, you guys knew it was gonna be 3 years. That was right around the start of the Triple H regime as well, or right in the middle of the transit, or they knew in the middle of the transition to Triple H. And I don't remember actually when Edge left, when I'm saying this out loud, but that didn't make you think, oh, let's make sure we figure out how to keep Edge around for 2 more years. Like a venue rivalry, yeah, we wanted the Punk, um, we wanted the Randy, we wanted the Styles, but I mean, I feel of any rivalry, that the Edge rivalry was seen as right up there, if not top in a lot of people's minds, and you couldn't keep him around. It's like that was the thing that struck me as we've talked about that 3 years thing. And it's nuts. Yeah, I think I do remember too that as you brought up that moment was more of a wait, is he actually gonna be good or is this another ruse? I kind of remember that now as we're talking. I think it was more of the hindsight as like, oh no, that was actually truly him turning face, but it was still Rumble and the it was in a type of match, eight and half of those appearances, take out two of the Rumble and the Chamber, and then at least three of those I think were tag team matches. One against Logan, one with Logan, and there might have been a third one in there as well. And I'm just kind of like, what, it's, and then so it's, so he wastes, he had, I shouldn't say, I don't want to use the word wasted. Not well used though. He had two matches with Truth, and then there was three matches involving Logan Paul, who is very polarizing as well. And honestly, it's like if there's gonna push over the moon during this retirement tour is apparently Logan Paul because he had three matches with the dude. Him and Dom, because I mean he had a lot of interaction with Dom in a short period as well. But man, it's like really that's almost gonna be like our second biggest takeaway from this retirement tour that he turned. Not only did he turn heel, but he put over Logan Paul, who's not as part-time as he was in the last couple years, and understandably that he would put over someone like Dom because, Dom is definitely in a high regard within WWE, and I'm starting to kind of see that more. But we got the Punk match, we got the Orton match, we got the Styles match, but then the rest of it was Logan Paul or Dominic Mysterio centric, and I'm leaning more towards Logan Paul. And on the worst side, we'll get to the best of Cena here in a minute, but on the worst side too, if when you get these tag matches involving and the heel promos involving Jey Uso, unless I'm just something or I miss something, you would think that if anything that he'd have to be mad about Jay about, it would be um why'd you you know why'd you beat me in the Royal Rumble? It's like, why didn't you let me win the Rumble? I wanted to win the Rumble. It's like, it's my last Rumble. Why didn't you let me win it? It's like, if anything, like, do some promos, stuff like that. And I feel like that was never brought up that, hey, Jay won that. And if we're going based off of, hey, we planned this 3 years ago and there's ideas in place, like, maybe the idea was there for Cena to lose the Rumble. But then I think last second, some other people was like, well, hey, Cena's still going to lose this Rumble, but hey, let's just do Jay instead of Punk. Apparently, I know this summer I was very much of like it's going to end up somewhere, but yeah, definitely in hindsight, I'm like, I was wrong. I was definitely wrong on this isn't leading anywhere, and Jay is all of a sudden is like, nope, I'm not main event scene anymore. I'm gonna go back to the tag team. Okay,
Yep.
thanks WWE.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole nother
It's another podcast.
that's a whole nother can of worms for me, Dan, that I don't really want to open on this podcast right now because it's going to be another hour before I stop talking. So I'm only going to say this a couple sentences here, and then I promise we'll get back to Cena. But and in January, not it's been a year now. Obviously, when Jay won the Rumble, I kept on saying, "This is a bad idea. This is not going to go well. This is an unnecessary risk. That's not going to pay off, in my opinion." And basically means that you went from, because this is what you had originally. I'm not even going to exaggerate here. This is exactly what you had before Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. You had a guy who had broken out of his tag team, who was a former Intercontinental Champion and who was arguably the most popular wrestler in the company amongst every aspect of the fan base, amongst children, amongst grown men, amongst women, amongst teenagers, amongst every single demographic. Jey Uso had an argument of being the most popular wrestler in the company. You now ended with him going right back into being a tag team. That is where you started, and then that is where it ended. I don't think in any way, shape, or form that is what WWE would have done if you told them, if you went back in time and told them,
Yeah.
like, I don't think WWE would be. They'd probably be like, all right, let's do it. Let's do something else. Let's do Punk at Mania then, or let's have Punk win the Rumble, or let's have Cena win the Rumble.
Yeah.
Like, they would just go a different direction. And so again, I'm not going to open up that whole can of worms. We'll leave it there. Now back to Cena. So, best moments for John Cena in this retire. It was when they leaned on Cena's strengths. They gave him a microphone, they let him go out in the ring, and they let him say a bunch of stuff. That was always where it was the best moments. Now, the one that I will pick in particular, because there's several, right? The promo that he cut with Logan Paul in the ring, I think it was the Friday Night SmackDown before their one-on-one match, where obviously I know you said that he put over Logan Paul. He actually didn't. Cena won that match. So he didn't put over.
Well, I mean, I will interject here. Over in a way of like he's gonna make sure Logan is featured in a lot of different ways, not necessarily over and winning the match, because I don't think Logan, more of the just like, hey, I want him in the spotlight with me. I want him in the spotlight with me. That's where maybe I should maybe change my verbiage, but yeah, that's where more about what I meant there.
Yeah, so he showcased Logan.
Yeah.
Is more what you mean. I got it. Okay, so yeah, the promo that he cut with Logan Paul, the Friday Night SmackDown, I think it was, before they had that match, was stellar. I mean, it was just so good. It was almost perfect in every way. But I will tell you which promo just barely beats it out for me. It was the promo that John Cena cut when John Cena was still a bad guy on Cody Rhodes before WrestleMania,
Mm.
because that that promo battle between him and Cody to set up that match was beautiful, because you could tell that the crowd was kind of not buying the Cena heel stuff completely yet, and they were just so excited to see a heel Cena that they were cheering him, and then they were kind of booing Cody. But then by the end, Cody had turned that whole crowd around, and they were cheering every word he was saying, because he was in control. All the stuff he was saying was great, but also, man, Cena did not let up.
He did not.
I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I've 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 filled the pockets of billionaires. All you've done is steal from their kids.
Yes. Yes. That is.
Like, obviously the Tony Khan, reference, all these things. That promo was, to me, my favorite part of the whole tour, because you could tell that the company just said, dude, go out there and be Cody Rhodes and John Cena and go nuts and have fun and freaking just lay it in. And they did, and it was excellent. And unfortunately, it got us a horrible WrestleMania match, and it got us a bunch of stuff that we didn't really like after that. But that promo,
Yeah.
excellent. Fantastic.
Yes. No, I remember that now. Yeah, that was the back and forth between them.
Beautiful. Easily the best moment for me.
Back and forth between them was wonderful between them. My best moment. I'm very curious what your reaction is here. My best moment, and this is why I'm very specific on moment, is the actual heel turn of Cena. I I
Sure.
I think it
Understood.
was kind of, it was alluded to. We never thought it was going to happen. We were like, surely they won't do it in a year where he only has 30 some appearances. I think a lot of people were like, surely they won't do it. But the end of Elimination Chamber, where it was, I think the end of that chamber match was just amazing in itself. Of we get Punk. It's like, oh yes, we're gonna get a preview of a match we know we're gonna get later this year somehow, some way. And then Rollins, getting involved and doing what he did. And it's like, oh, interesting. And then, Cody comes out to confront him. And I'm like, okay, so respect, homage. And I think while it was definitely lined up to say, hey, this could happen with Cena before we get to Mania, with the press conference, which might have been the last press conference that WWE ever did, which is kind of funny to me because they don't do them anymore after their PLEs. He threw his R-Truth to the table, and I was like, maybe he's just mad that he lost the Rumble, which I would be too if Austin Sheamus. So at this, in hindsight, but it's, um, I think it was just the way it was all set up. I know we didn't get anything paid off, but that's why I'm saying the moment itself, it was surprising, well done, well acted out. Everybody played their part well outside of Scott, because like, why do you kick a guy in the face like you did? Whatever, but it's I feel like I was edge of my seat from the very last moments of that chamber match through the end of that PLE, and I think I just stared at the TV just in disbelief. I'm like, this just happened. How? What? How? Um, I'm with CBV there. It's like the full heel turn, not executed well. We've talked about that at length here, half the podcast of this year. But the moment itself, I think, was just very well done, captured it well. One of those big viral moments. I don't know if WWE has released anything of like most viral moments of the year for them. I got to think that that moment and encapsulated itself is up. And I think that the turn is up there, is probably above some of those promos with me. And maybe that's just because if I would have gone and rewatched some of these promos, the one or two with versus Logan Paul, the one with Cody, I think they had a couple. Even the one where he just first came out as a heel after Mania and made the kid cry, kind of thing. I mean, you are very correct in saying that face heel, like they gave Cena the mic for so many of these appearances, and he was marvelous every time he was on the mic. You were there, you wanted to know what he was going to say, and you wanted to know how to cheer or boo for him when he said it. And so it's, but yeah, the best one for me was the heel turn minus all the aftermath and execution.
Right, and you're 100% correct. I should have said this. I thought of, I was thinking of saying it, and then for whatever reason, it's escaped my mind to say it's a little too late. But I should have said other than the heel turn, because the heel turn is obviously the most incredible moment, arguably in wrestling history. I mean, it stands on its own on top of the pillar of professional wrestling forever as, again, arguably the greatest moment in the history of wrestling. Like, that is without saying. The moment itself was executed to perfection outside of Travis Scott almost, blowing Cody Rhodes' eardrum. But regardless, the reason I didn't say it is just because it's been talked about ad nauseum by
Yeah,
everybody. It's clearly the best moment during this thing. And then also, again, I kind of did assume that that was what you were going to pick as well, just because of the magnitude of it all. So I wanted to give a different take, like,
yeah,
other than the heel turn, which is obviously number one. I should have said that the first time, because that is, again, far and away the best moment. It's not even really all that particular. Other than that, what is the best moment for me? So I should have
yeah.
said that at the beginning. I apologize, Dan,
No,
because I'm sure
that
everybody was sitting at home going, "God, this guy sucks. He didn't even really the heel turn of that, right?" But that's why, yeah,
but
I
I
just slipped my
think
mind. So
what you said, even without having to precede that with that statement, is as well, because you're right. One thing that everybody's always loved about Cena outside of his matches is the man can work a mic. And we've seen it, we've seen him put down countless people. One of the most played moments will always be the suffering succotash, at least for me, for Roman, because that's just, it's still so funny to me, especially all these years later. Another match that we could have had that we didn't have. But it's, so I don't blame you for going from that perspective, even without precluding, the heel turn. And I mean, and I'm sure there are groups out there that's like, you know, the heel turn just because they didn't want to see that from Cena at all. So I mean, I could see that, but yeah,
mhm.
it's a pillar, and yeah, I mean, we don't have the time now. But part of me wants to just kind of go back through and see, like, watch every single just straight up promo from Cena and be like, did I like that one better than this one, or what have you, and actually figure out, hey, which promo did I like the best from Cena for the
Right,
year. So
yeah, that would be an undertaking for sure.
yes, it would. Um, all right, we've talked the best and worst moments of Cena's retirement tour. Let's get to the best and worst matches of the tour. Do you want to start with the best or worst here again?
Well, we did the worst last time, so let's do best here. We'll get the good stuff out of the way, and then we'll save the doldrum for the end. So, best match. This is difficult because there's to me two real legitimate picks that either one I would 100. I'd be like, yes, I completely get it. I have a feeling I know which one you're going to pick, so I'm going to pick the other one, and I am going to say the SummerSlam match with Cody Rhodes, because
Oh,
it was so it meant a lot to me, because it almost validated my booking, because I put him through such hell at SummerSlam in my booking
that's right. Yep.
that I actually felt the need in my booking to say, hey, I understand that this is kind of an unrealistic scenario for a 48-year-old man to be, destroying his body like this. But I think I think Cena could still do it. And then he put his body through significantly more stuff in that match with Cody than what
Yeah.
I had in, obviously all the stuff, he's going up to Cody Vader with Cody Rhodes on his shoulders in the AA with that smirk on his face, and obviously the precursor, which was the best. This honestly may have been the best moment of the entire thing, and I may have completely misplayed my hand, but man, when it went from the black screen to all the John Cena colors again when he came out for that entrance, I mean, the pop. I mean, my ears were bleeding and I wasn't even there. Like I was just sitting in my living room going, "Oh, I'd give anything to be in that building right now
Yes,
and
yes,
to
yes.
feel that."
Yep.
That just everything about that match. It was as perfect of a match as you could ask out of John Cena. Uh, and again, it was the best quality match that of his run, and it's not even particularly close in my opinion. I mean, give me another one in terms of actual quality professional wrestling, not, I'm just going to do a bunch of people's moves, which was great. It was fantastic. I almost said another word that would have, given away what I'm talking about here, of course, but I don't want to take it away because I'm sure you're going to pick the one I'm thinking. But it like to me that match, Cody, represented everything that I wanted out of that run, which is fantastic matches one more time against the guys that are going to be the future of the industry for the next 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 years. And that really, to be honest, and we can argue it all the live long day, Dan, pretty much outside of his final match with Gunther. That was the only match where I can definitively say John Cena put over a guy in a non-crazy weird way. Obviously, he put Dom over, but he had like 11 interferences. So, like,
12.
does that really? I don't know if that really counts as like it was a dirty fit. Like, Cody beat him clean as a whistle. There was no bones about it. He just out wrestled John Cena that day. He was better than John Cena that day. He was the better man, and John Cena put him over that way. So that's really the only time outside of his final match, which I'm sure. I don't know if you're going to talk about that match as the worst one. I don't know. A lot of people probably think it is. I don't. I don't think it's even top 3 worst matches. But man, that Cody match to me, it exemplified everything that I wanted out of the entire run, and we got it in one night. Unfortunately, that's kind of the only one we got of that caliber to me. So.
Yeah, no, I was torn between their rematch, Punk, Punk and Cena. I think the build might have been actually maybe a little bit better than the match, but the match was still good. That was more of one of those let's pay homage to some things, more versus the quality. Um, and I like you said earlier, like I did like those promos, the thuggin where they stole each other's thing, the thugonomics for Punk and the pipe, and then Cena's pipe bomb, which he called out, which it's still it's so funny to me. He called out Cardona and Dolph, and they both appeared in the Last Man Standing tournament.
Yep.
or
If
let
only we had a third mystery slot, we would have gotten Claudio Castagnoli. We would have had a crossover. No, we wouldn't have gotten out. He's a little too Death Rider right now
yeah,
for WWE's liking, I think.
yeah, a little bit.
A little too AEW right now.
Yeah, so that was, and then I mean, yeah, Orton Cena, I thought that was good given the
That was a
tiny,
great match.
tiny build that it had, but it was still, we knew it was gonna be a good match. It was a good match. But you are correct. I am picking Styles and Cena because that was what I was kind of more wanting out of
Perfectly
the
fine with me.
booking. With the booking is like I wanted the fun matches. I wanted the fun Cena. I wanted those where he would go and he'd hit the moves over and over, and the fact that they literally they hit so many different moves between the two of them. Everybody talks about the moves that Cena hit on Styles. Styles pulled out a couple extras. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know Styles pulled out a couple extras. The one that we didn't get that we almost got, the 619, I think I would have jumped out of my seat and been like, what? Just the fact that he actually pulled even that kind of a move off. So I like that we got, it's funny that we got the tease for that. I think it was maybe like 7 or 8 different, maybe 9 different moves, finishers, or highlighted moves between the two of them in that match outside of their own moves. And that was just a fun match that I was hoping for from the run this year. And so that's what I think pushed me over the edge of the Cena Rhodes rematch, or even Cena Punk. I felt, a lot of those were good. Honestly, Punk beating Dominic for the IC title, Cena, or I just messed up a bunch of names. Cena beating Sammy for the US title, is up there for me, and then Cena beating Dom for the IC title, I think, are matches that deserve consideration in that conversation as well. Just because of the title, past matches, with US title, stuff like that. I feel like there were a lot of good matches that didn't have a lot of storyline, minus the Rhodes one that was the payoff of that storyline eventually, I guess, with them. And kind of, I guess, a third match, because that second match with them was a tag match. But yeah, it's which goes with the Cody trifecta for every person he faces. um,
except for Roman.
Yet. um,
Yet.
Yet. Anyway,
Hey, we may get it at Mania this year.
we might. And I do
Hey,
like
who
the
knows?
Gunther match. I know a lot of people didn't like it, or at least how it went down. And again, I think it was so well timed for what Cena said on CBB's podcast of like, I'm gonna do things my way out. It may not be liked, but he's always been that person of, hey, people are talking about it, good or bad. People are talking about it, and that's what I want. He wants people talking
Mhm.
about it, whether people like it or not, and he knows, and it's gonna be talked about. It's gonna be talked about for the rest of this year, probably a lot of next, early part of next year. Every time we see Gunther, obviously on TV right now, and everything like that, and you know, um, and to dovetail, I have to honestly say I like what they're doing with Gunther right now. I'll talk on him a little bit more later of where I'm going with that, to not spoil anything, but just to give you an idea of the bold picks that we'll get to, later tonight. But I think, that match was great. It was very technical. It was very trying on Cena, and I love that he just smiled and was like, "Yep, I'm good. I'm done." I get why it's controversial and why it's not like, but I'm like, I was shocked. I was definitely like, what? He tapped? But then after I just kind of sat and let it marinate, I was like, it makes sense and may not be liked. And I don't like it in the moment. I will eventually. I'll understand it. I may not still like it ever, but I get it. And it's his way of going out, and it just kind of seems to fit the retirement tour as a whole. And yeah, okay, I'm good. But yeah, best match, AJ Styles.
Yeah, again, that was the other match. Obviously, I was referring to where if you picked that match as the best match, I would not. That's totally fine. I 100% agree with you. That was a phenomenal match, which was obviously the word I almost used earlier. It was great. Obviously, vastly different than the Cody Rhodes Cena match in every way. But just as beautiful, just as poetic, and
Mhm.
just as meaningful. So all those you didn't make a single point that I disagree with, Dan, on that match, obviously. And yeah, we could sit here and talk all day about what happened with Gunther. I think the thing that for me is the light at the end of the tunnel for fans should be that WWE has capitalized on that moment in as good of a way as they could have, and Gunther is getting legitimate attention and legitimate bad guy heat. He's not getting go away. What I was afraid of in the kind of moment of, oh man, if they are going to have him tap Cena out, I'm worried that fans are just going to completely and utterly reject Gunther as a character, and they're going to just boo him out of arenas, and they're going to not buy any of the stuff, and it's going to be bad. But luckily, that hasn't been what's happened yet, and so we will see where it goes from here. For Gunther's sake, man, I think he deserves it. I think he is a guy that is just so freaking good. He's so talented. He has everything that there is to have in a professional wrestler. And I think that he's a guy that can carry the company in the immediate future, in the immediate aftermath of this whole Cena thing. I think he kind of fills a void, not necessarily the Cena void because that's kind of more Cody,
Right,
but
right.
I think that he certainly can fill the Brock Lesnar void. I think certainly that is that's a guy that can fill those shoes, and we'll see. Maybe Brock Lesnar is next, because for those attention, SummerSlam is Brock Lesnar's premium live event, not pay-per-view anymore, but that's his show, and it's in Minneapolis, where Brock Lesnar is from, in 2026. So it's kind of setting itself up for that to be Brock Lesnar's final match. He'll retire in his hometown at his show. Who is going to be the guy that retires him? If it's Gunther, it makes all the sense in the world. If it's Braun Breaker, it makes all the sense in the world. If it's Obafemi, it makes all the sense in the world. If it's somebody other than those three, something has gone horribly wrong, and we need to stop it. Like, that's my personal opinion. I would not understand if it went to anybody other than those three. Do you have one?
I just, it's a thought of a guy that we were talking about earlier. The only other guy I would maybe throw in that conversation, but he's definitely a clear cut number 4 to those 3 that you just mentioned, would be Bronson Reed. But I would be
Yes, and that's what I was thinking. If you had to Bronson Reed, okay, I wouldn't have been my choice, but sure, we'll accept it. But no, if it's gonna, it should be Femi, it should be Gunther, it should be Breaker. To me, that's kind of the way I would go. But I think anyway. But beyond that, the reason why I bring up Brock Lesnar is because we're transitioning into now the worst match of John Cena's booking, and my choice is going to be the Brock Lesnar John Cena. Actually, are okay. Well, we'll high five. Very good. We'll high five at the doldrum of professional wrestling. Yay! So
I'm
there's
just saying I
actually a
agree
couple
with
of
you. I agree with you
choices.
here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it was horrible. But there actually are a couple of options, right? And they're all horrible for different reasons, right? I think the WrestleMania match with Cody, while the match itself wasn't bad, I think it did the most catastrophic damage to the John Cena retirement tour of any match on the slate, and it's not particularly close. I think it just did so much negative damage and put such a sour taste in everyone's mouth at the end of the night, despite him winning his 17th World Championship, which should be arguably the most historic moment in the history of WWE for sure, if not professional wrestling as a whole, kind of ruined by how it all went down, right? Like, just such a bad thing. So you could make an argument for that because it did the most damage. You can make an argument for the John Cena R-Truth match because it was, quite frankly, enough to did nothing for anybody and had no impact whatsoever. And quite frankly, the match itself wasn't all that good either. So you can make an argument for that.
2
right?
matches.
There were 2 matches with R-Truth?
Yes.
What was the second one?
One was a non-championship match, and another one, and I think I'm almost positive there was an actual championship match. I think one was on a SmackDown, and one was on a Saturday Night's Main Event.
I don't know. Maybe
I could be misremembering. I could be maybe remembering promos or whatever, but I think they technically had 2 matches.
Well, I'm gonna just pretend for my own sanity that that's not the case, or that it's just gone and I'm not even factoring it in. So you can make an argument for the Saturday Night's Main Event match against R-Truth because it did nothing for nobody. And I can actually tell you the reason why somebody may say the Brock Lesnar Cena match was not the worst, because they at least made the right decision. Like, they at least told the right story for that match, which is Brock comes back and kills him. Like, that's correct. As much as we don't like it, that's correct.
Yeah.
So, like, you can at least say they told the right story. So that's an argument for it. But I think despite all of those things, I still think that it's the worst match, because when you have John Cena and you only have him for a certain amount of time, to me, having him face Brock Lesnar at this point to go out there and get slaughtered, like, Does Brock Lesnar need that at this point? No. Brock Lesnar has destroyed people for 20 years. He doesn't need to destroy anybody that he's still Brock Lesnar.
Yep.
Like, he doesn't, like, it's not like he'd been gone like the first time, right? It wasn't like the first time where he was gone for like, what, 7 years or 8 years or whatever the heck it was. And it was like, well, let's see what he's got. I mean, I know he was just in UFC, so, you know, this is going to probably, but then that first match with John, even though he lost that match, which is one of the stupidest booking decisions of all time, by the way, you know, that showed like, oh, geez, like this guy could freaking kill people. Like, this is a guy that can really book him properly. And then they did, and then obviously it kind of got out of hand, and you know, all the ups and downs from there we can discuss on a later date. But was anybody not convinced that Brock Lesnar was still a monster? Like, I don't think anybody was, right? So like, why did you need that to re-legitimize him? You should have just had him come back and do something else, right? That to me, that didn't make much sense. They shouldn't have had the match in the first place. The nature of the story, you know, again, you could. I'm saying that it was the correct decision. If you were going to have that match, it was the correct decision. But it was the completely incorrect decision to have that match in the first place, because you should have known that he was going to destroy him, and therefore you should have known it was going to just be a waste of everybody's time, and it was going to be a bad match. So for those reasons, despite all the other arguments, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, the worst match of the retirement tour.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. On the R-Truth thing, it was a Saturday night's main event that they had a match together, and at the end of May, right the week before Money, or 2 weeks before Money in the Bank, it was a non-title match at that time, Saturday night's main event with R-Truth, and then
Yes,
where did I just lost it? Then SmackDown a month later, random SmackDown, and this is the whole R-Truth Killings thing. So I guess technically he only had one match against R-Truth, because the second match against Ron Killings, and that was the title match on SmackDown. So there's your two. So I guess R-Truth really only had one match. On Ron's Killings had the other. So you could definitely technically say it's two different people.
All right. So
But
apparently I just completely blocked that out of my memory. I genuinely have zero memory of them having that second match on SmackDown. I know that around that time, like, wasn't like Aleister Black also involved with R-Truth at that time too? Like, it was. Like,
I think so.
Maybe I'm just mixing.
I mean, that was the whole contract thing. They wanted him to stay, but he didn't want. That was the whole weird thing there, and that was all right around the tag match that he had with Logan Paul against Cody and Jay. And then it's
and R-Truth came back.
Yeah, so it's that was backlash through Night of Champions. That whole middle of May to middle of June was just ugh.
Yeah.
We talk about a bad heel of the bad heel execution. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. I think
I'm trying to figure out why I don't remember this, because I genuinely like try to remember. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I only remember just because I have it in front of me. I looked up the list.
I'm a little disappointed in myself that I don't remember it, but not fair. Yeah, that's fair, I guess. But yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, then I might change my answer, because if I don't even remember the goddamn match that he had with R-Truth on SmackDown, that had to be the worst one, right? I mean, like, I don't even remember.
Here's the funniest fact to me through that whole thing is that Saturday Night's main event, which I'm going to down even more later. Saturday Night's main event, that was a non-title match, but SmackDown was a title match? Like, what? That. Anyway,
I don't know what to tell you.
Before we move on to the rest of WWE, any more comments on the Cena Cena stuff, or you want to move on to our best?
I've said my piece about everything.
Uh,
I've already made all my opinions clear as best I can. So I'm ready to talk about some non-Cena stuff.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Let's dive into the rest of the WWE PLEs and matches. I wanted to get your favorite and least favorite PLE of 2025 and your favorite and least favorite match of 2025. As I misspelled match on my graphic here, I see. Oh well. 5 seconds before we go. Anyway, if you don't mind me kind of kicking this off a little bit with here on the favorite PLEs and matches, I want to start on the favorite PLEs. To me, I'm going through the list, and I feel like there's actually a decent amount of PLEs, and I'll throw NXT. Feel free to include NXT here as well. I didn't watch as many of those. I caught highlights of some. I meant to go back and watch more of those, but I never did. So I won't include NXT though. I feel like there's a lot of really good quality NXT PLEs.
Oh yeah.
You know, I come down to my favorite PLE either being Cena's last ride. That's what we call it. Cena's last ride. I forget what they called it, but the last Saturday Night Main Event of the year for Cena's last PLE, or WrestleMania Night 2. It's Crown Jewel is up there for me. SummerSlam was really really good, very solid, especially for its first time as a 2 night event and stuff. But I think when it comes down to it, I'm probably going to cop out with WrestleMania Night 2. Um, just because I feel like you know sometimes WrestleMania obviously has gotten so big that it needed 2 nights, and I feel like you can look at it at two separate cards because both cards are treated as a separate main event for each. So I'm taking that. I'm running with WrestleMania Night 2 as probably one of the better cards, top to bottom. We've talked about this. Night one was what was very little quality from top to bottom, but an outstanding, wonderful main event match. Whereas night two was very much the opposite of the main event of night two. Very mixed reviews, still a good match, but a lot of mixed reviews, mixed aftermath. But the card top to bottom, outside of maybe one match, which again really wasn't that bad of a match, was the quality was better. We had the women's triple threat with Bianca, Io, and Rhea. Yeah, that trio. Bianca, Io, and Rhea. We had IC match. I believe that was a fatal four way that Dominic won. We had Drew and Damian with a really good match. We got Joe Hendry and Randy Orton in the ring. We got Logan Paul and AJ Styles in a match that was pretty good. It's outside of night one. I mean, the Fatu match. I'll shill for anything Jacob Fatu. It was just night two was just really well top to bottom. Again, I love Crown Jewel and stuff like that. And it was so great because we got to feature NXT talent. But man, that last Saturday night's main event, Cena's retirement PLE, just made me wish we would have gotten more shining moments for NXT stars or an actual not just Saturday night's main event, an actual PLE that got to feature that, or him on an X. It's made me wish that we could have done so much more and realize we could have done so much more, like to really four different rising stars out of the huge crop of rising stars, especially on the men's side, and NXT and TNA as an extension. We only got Oba, which wasn't really even a finished match, which was a great match. Styles and Dragon Lee against Bouncy and Leon Slater. And Sol Ruka showed off amazing athleticism. So that card from just what we got to see from NXT talent was great for me. But I think when it comes down to it, my favorite PLE for the year was WrestleMania Night 2.
Sorry again, Dan. I'm getting a good amount of lag, so I apologize if there's breaks. If there's breaks in the in between you finishing and me talking here. But yeah, that's not a bad choice for sure. I think for me, outside of Cody and Cena, which was just a miserable way to end that night. WrestleMania Night 2 was absolutely excellent. It was in every way, other than again that main event. So I don't hate that pick at all. So I am going to I'm going to cheat a little bit. You picked obviously WrestleMania Night 2. I am going to just pick SummerSlam as a whole. I'm not going to kind of I'm not going to say night 1 or night 2 which one's better, because quite frankly at this point, dude, I don't even remember which ones were on night 1 and which ones are on night 2. In terms of like the lower card match at this point. It's been it's been too long. But the reason I'm picking this match is there's two of them. There's two reasons. And it is the two best matches that WWE has put together all year, and they were both on SummerSlam. CM Punk versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship was my favorite match of the year. I will just spoil that right now. That is my pick for the best match of the year. I thought it was excellent. A lot of people really didn't like it. You all suck and your opinions are stupid. Number two, obviously the John Cena versus Cody Rhodes match that I talked about earlier on in the podcast. Those are the two reasons why SummerSlam was the best show for me. Those two matches were so good. I don't even care what the rest of the card was. You could have had somebody wrestle a broom for an hour and a half on both nights and then just had those matches, and I still may have put it in the top interviews that WWE's put together all year. That is how good those two matches were. I really don't even feel like saying much else. SummerSlam is my favorite.
I had to look up the card, and I think SummerSlam probably had 3 of the best matches all year. Night 1 card wasn't outstanding, but we still had good matches. Night 1 started with Roman and Jay versus the Braun Bronze. Then we had Bliss and Flair versus Raquel and Roxanne. Sammy defeated Karrion Kross, R.I.P. Karrion. Tiffany defeated Jade. Drew and Logan defeated this is the broom match. Drew and Logan defeated Randy and Jelly Roll. CM Punk and Gunther. And then Seth Rollins actually, obviously cashing in over Punk there at the end of the night. Night 2 was Naomi and Rhea and Io, which Naomi won. Night 2 also included probably the best easily the best tag team ladder match of Wyatt 6, DIY, Andrade and Ray.
Oh yeah,
Fraxium,
that was great.
Motor City Machine Gun, Street Profits, which we haven't seen the Street Profits in a while. Anyway, Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria, Solo and Jacob, Dominic and AJ, and then ending the night with Cody and John Cena. That's the match of Gunther and CM Punk was wow. I mean, wow upon wow upon wow. And then the swerve the swerve was just that cherry on top of Rollins. But I mean, that match itself, I'm hoping I don't want to get into this too much. I'm just, they need to run that match back again much sooner than later. That's all I can say there. They need to run that match back sooner than later between Punk and Gunther. That's honestly, I'm thinking of what I put down as my. Honestly, I don't think I actually picked my favorite match to the top of my favorite matches, because it's the favorite match is very tough for me this year, because I feel we had a lot of really, really good PLE matches. That tag match on the ladders is near the top for me too. I honestly don't blame you for taking SummerSlam as a whole based on just 2 matches, but that card as a whole was still very, very good.
Very
and
good.
now I kind of regret taking WrestleMania Night 2, but I'm going to still stick with WrestleMania Night 2.
No, don't. No, that's a great pick. No. I will say this though. I know. I said that Cody Rhodes and Cena were. I lied. That is the 3rd best match of the year, because there is one match that I want to give love to. Because obviously, if you want to pick Punk and Gunther as your favorite match of the year too, so be it. That's awesome. We can both have it. That is my favorite match of the year. But my second favorite match of the year, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens at Elimination Chamber. Holy
The
crap, that
unsanctioned match.
match. Yes. That match, that match was perfectly brutal. Perfectly brutal. Exactly the right amount of brutal to make WWE fans that hadn't seen anything like that before squeamish with all, the thumbtacks and the barbed wire and the the chairs and just everything about that, and the fact that I think was the last had before he, obviously now has to get all of his, his whole neck completely refused, basically. Like, his last two matches was the ladder match with Cody, which was brutal with all those crazy bumps and, getting power bombed off the announce table through a ladder, landing on his head, and that reverse superplex where Cody just shot himself all the way across the ring after hitting the ladder, and then the next match, that match against Sammy, and it's just like, dude, the guy gave his life in his last two matches that we may ever see him in, and I hope that's not the case because you know how much I love Kevin Owens, and so it's. But man, that match, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, if that's not in the running, I know WWE doesn't really do slammies much anymore, but like if there was a slammy for match of the year and that's not one of the four finalists, I'm gonna throw a fit because that match was so want that match to get lost in the I loved SummerSlam, so it had two of the best matches all year. I did want to give that match some love too because, like, the fact that we had that match, then the men's elimination chamber, then John Cena's heel turn for like an hour and a half, I felt like I was just injecting drugs into my body, just hardcore, just yes, just like this is what it felt like for an hour and a half. It was awesome. Um, but yeah, then the rest of that pay per view was so
I
that wasn't in the running for me. But yeah, man, if you're at a category, Dan, of the best hour and a half of a wrestling show, Elimination Chamber wins by a mile.
yeah.
That was ridiculous. But anyway,
Yeah, so your favorite match is the Punk Gunther match, right? That's what you're going with.
that is my number one. But I did also want to give Sammy and
Yeah,
Kevin Owens a love.
and well, let's just we'll just talk fave matches here. We'll keep on going that route. Then we'll go to for PLE matches. Um, I have a list in front of me, and I have to mention a couple of the women's matches because the Rhea, Io, and Naomi match later in the year, and then at WrestleMania, Io, Rhea, and Bianca. Those two matches for the women's matches were outstanding, and I didn't actually watch the Evolution, but I know a lot of people were raving about Evolution. A lot of good matches
That
there.
was my number two.
hmm
That was my second favorite pay per view of the year.
Yeah, so
Evolution.
a lot of really good matches. That's where we got Stephanie, nearly crowned, which she eventually got moved on to be crowned as current women's champion. Um, I had Jacob Fatu winning a fatal four way on my list. Rollins and Punk at Clash. It was good. The 6-man ladder match. A non PLE match that made my list was Sami Zayn and Ilya for Ilya's return to take the U.S. title. That was, oh my word, I could watch that match 500 times probably. Gunther Punk, as you mentioned, and the match that I was honestly surprised we haven't mentioned this match at all. I kind of alluded to it a second ago, but the triple threat of Punk and Roman and Rollins was a really good match. Um,
That was so good. Excellent.
Excellent, and but the match that's actually my favorite after listing all of those, all the great SummerSlam matches that we saw, and forgetting about the unsanctioned match that was also very good. Um, but you did mention this one, the ladder match of Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes of the year, just because it was so brutal. It was one of the last times we might ever see Kevin Owens again. I'm with you. I hope that's not true. I hope we see him back. Maybe not. I don't expect him really in 26. Maybe we get him sometime in 27. Because pretty serious injuries, pretty serious surgery. But to me, that takes an eke above everything, just because a lot. We had a lot of good matches, especially this and at the end of the summer. So many good matches, but I feel like that was The brutality of that one, I think I appreciate it more. I don't the squeamish of the unsanctioned match didn't bother me. The squeamish of a lot of AEW matches I know a lot of people like, including a friend of the podcast, Jason. You know, um, the squeamishness of that degree, I don't really care for in a match, and that's what that takes away from matches for me. So I think that's why I would kind of take the ladder match over the unsanctioned match a little bit. Because it's still just like having pull ups, just moves that it's like, how do you do that? How do you take that? How do you take those bumps like that? I mean, I know these ladders are built to collapse and stuff like that, but I mean, it's still metal hitting your body. It's like, oh my word. And we know that Cody doesn't shy away, and we know that Kevin doesn't shy away from brutality of matches. And I know this is probably an unfair interjection into this match, but the build through the better, maybe even stories of which I probably should have brought up here on this episode, but the story throughout from the Saturday Night's main event of the two different the two different titles, the Winged Eagle title and everything, and the concluding with that match is just wow. And again, trio of matches for Cody. Crazy. To me that takes a slight over edge. I mean, I here and say Punk and Gunther was maybe 1B because that's so close for me. But because I really did enjoy that. I feel that that match did really well considering we probably should have had it earlier. Possibly could have been a Mania match and should have had a much better build for that match. They did so well with it being such a relatively short build. I think partially because of Mania Money in the King of the Ring tourney stuff that they were both involved in so many storylines up until then. It's like, oh wait, we can have this match with these two. Let's do it. um, but
Yeah.
they did so well despite all of that, and that's just a credit to one Punk on just how much he understands stuff, and Gunther again, kind of like I think what you have definitely known and you have educated me on in the last year and a half of 2 years, I think honestly, of how good Gunther is that the rest of people are finally seeing. Yeah, that's a 1B, and now I'm kind of talking myself out of the KO Cody match, but I said, my first instinct was the Cody KO match, and but I mean, yeah, we had a lot of really good main events on most of the cards all year. Some really top notch television events, main events and stuff too. But I felt while there was a lot of lacking products, we still got a day throughout the year, and you know, the fact that I can list off what 8 matches, 7 matches that we can talk about, and you can make a case for many of them, and especially considering we had good women's matches. We probably also could use a category of best favorite women's match and favorite women's matches because there's probably a lot of women matches that I'm not adding and just forgetting about. Um,
Yeah.
and we still had, while we saw a lot of hit and misses, we still had a really good quality matches this year, and that's just exciting to. Okay, maybe we get a little short sighted sometimes. The end product is will be fine, but yeah, I think there's a lot of room for a lot of different arguments for matches there.
Yeah. All that is Dan. And I guess now we have to talk about the sad stuff, the stuff that we didn't really like this year.
And
And so, in order to be, I suppose I will go first and talk about the bad stuff. So, in terms of, so that was obviously our favorite premium live events, favorite match. Start with our least favorite premium live event of the year. Hard pressed to not say WrestlePalooza. I think WrestlePalooza was so mediocre that it was the worst thing I've ever seen. And I know that that may not make sense on the like people who like don't either follow wrestling or understand the context, like this was WWE's opportunity to show the widespread ESPN audience for the first time how much better the quality of wrestling has become over the last 5 to 10 to 15 years. There's so many people that I meet, Dan, especially in my line of work doing what I'm doing now, that, people ask me all the time, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" Well, I go to school right now. I'm in the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting, but I'm also a wrestling commentator and ring announcer. Oh, wrestling. Wow. I used to watch wrestling when I was a kid, but I don't watch it anymore. And meanwhile, this person's, in their 30s or in their 40s or whatever. So they haven't watched for 20 years, maybe, or 25 years. Like, you had an opportunity to show those people that may not have watched on a mainstream scale for 25 years, that love sports, or that, watch a bunch of other stuff on ESPN, that, I've heard that wrestling's a lot better now. New of the WWE, there's all these new athletic wrestlers now, and oh, who's the champ? Oh my goodness, Cody Rhodes. Is that Dusty Rhodes? I used to watch Dusty Rhodes when I was a kid. I remember Dusty, right? Like, you had that opportunity to do that, and you didn't even put out a show that was horrible. You put out a show that was just, eh. Like, nothing bad happened, but nothing good happened. Like, it just was there. Like, I can't even tell you one match on that card, Dan. Like, did Cena wrestle on the show? I don't think so. Did he? Did he? I don't even remember now. Like, it was a whole. Was that the Logan Paul match? Was that what that was? That no? Who did he wrestle on that show?
That was the Brock Lesnar match.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Never mind. You did do something horrible. You murdered John Cena in front of millions of people. By the way, that's it, because the balls to have ESPN have a merger, and the first thing you show fans is the most popular guy in the mainstream audience in wrestling history,
And
just getting beaten to death for 10 minutes.
That opened the show.
Yeah, that is the first thing they saw, was Cena die. Yeah.
The main event of that show was a very decent match, but a very just like, again, exclamation point to that card of Cody Rhodes defeating Drew McIntyre. The only thing that would really came out good of that card, and this match should have been the main event, was AJ Lee getting back in the ring, which they didn't push at all. That should have been the main event. That should have been the focus of them. That should have been like, we have Cena, we have Brock, and we are returning AJ Lee. So all those people that you just mentioned that haven't watched for 10, 15, 20 years, it's like, remember Brock, remember Cena. Hey, remember Punk and AJ Lee too? I felt we got so much hype for that match through so many promos, so many advertisements, and then it just went kapoop. Like, a couple of those matches weren't bad. The only then there's a fifth match.
Was his Io Sky?
Yes.
On that show?
Yep.
Or am I thinking of a different show?
You are correct. That was that match for the vacant Women's World Championship.
That was good. That was a good match.
That was a good match.
Enjoyed that.
Yeah. That match was good. I would have said that should open the show, and then the main event should have been Punk and AJ Lee defeating Seth and Becky. But nope, but I mean, you got Cody, he's your champion, so I get that why that's the main event. But after my wife has been watching more wrestling with, and there's definitely things that she likes that she doesn't like. But when she first saw AJ Lee, and she hadn't really ever been exposed to AJ Lee before, she was like, "Oh, this is kind of cool. She's kind of neat, kind of interesting." And she had a ball with that match, and it's like, and then you get to, so someone that's either new to wrestling and enjoys a match like that, to just get again, not a bad match between Cody and Drew, but you kind of get a high off of a fun match, entertaining match that tag match was, and then you get Cody and Drew, and it's like, again, is for all the hype. It was very eh. And I do
Right.
not blame you one iota for choosing that.
Do you concur then? Is that your least favorite premium live event of the year, or is there another one for you?
To me, it's all of the Saturday night main events. I'm just lumping them all outside of the Cena one. I take that as an
All of
exception.
them.
I just take that as an exception. I they're not memorable to me. They just weren't memorable at all. I'm gonna try to look up the match cards here in a second, but I just ugh, I just don't remember them. And I think part of it was the or at least especially like the Gunther Goldberg could have been much better. I feel, um, and I think and I don't remember I don't remember what main event Saturday night's main event that was, but I always feel like those are. I mean, the first couple of the year were on network TV as well as Peacock, and you run into so many other issues on a network broadcast because you have to get so many commercials in at certain times that you don't necessarily do that especially don't have to worry about on Netflix, and to a lesser extent don't have to worry about on USA. You know, they can kind of play them whenever as long as they still get them in. But it's like you have to hit certain times with these commercials breaks up the flow. So like the first two events of the year were just atrocious because it's like just when it's like you're kind of wanting to get into it, you're just like boom, commercials for 3 minutes at least. Because again, it's network TV. You got to fit so many in. And then Gunther retires Goldberg, and we didn't get anything from Goldberg after. We got like 30 seconds of Goldberg after that, and it went off air because
Yeah.
NBC had to get to its 10 o'clock programming that they always have. So it's like the Saturday Night's main events as a whole, outside of the Cena one, again, I put the Cena one as an exception. Um, because that's really their only premium event that they had for December, so they had to put it out as a Saturday Night's main event. But yeah, the Saturday Night's main events, I think, as a whole, were slightly worse for me. They're a little more least favorite of that stuff, just because I did enjoy some of that card of WrestlePalooza, but again, WrestlePalooza was very just poorly executed when it should have been executed so much better. Just frustrating.
Sure. No, yeah. I get it, and yeah, the Goldberg thing was completely unacceptable. Having one of the greatest, you could argue whether he was an actual good wrestler or not, or whether you like the stuff or whether you're not. It's one of the most iconic wrestlers of all time. Fun fact: my sister Jamie's favorite wrestler is Goldberg. That was her kind of in. Just like whenever we were talking about wrestling, it would always eventually get back to Goldberg because obviously a little bit limited knowledge there, and that's not a problem. I mean, obviously, you kind of you work with what you have, so it was always good. But yeah, that was completely inexcusable. That having it go down that way. I don't know whose fault. Obviously, it was. Um, whether they went over time, I don't know. Whether WWE just didn't think that Peacock or NBC would pull the show. I don't know what happened there necessarily, but obviously, yeah, having Goldberg be 30 seconds into his big retirement speech at the end of his career of one of the best and most impactful wrestlers ever, and it just to be cut off and no one ever gets to hear it, like that's it's inexcusable for sure. So
Yeah.
I understand your perspective.
Yeah, well, I was just looking up the Goldberg SNME Saturday Night's main event. Didn't even give a length of time for this one, but this first match of that card was B-Fab and Meechin versus Alba Fire and Pepper Niven. Second match was Randy Orton defeating Drew, and that's when we first got the first look of Jelly Roll in the wrestling ring. Then Solo beat Jimmy for the U.S. Championship. And then what I think the night will be remembered more for this match than the Goldberg match is when LA Knight defeated Seth Rollins because Seth Rollins got hurt. It'll be the Seth Rollins got hurt moment over the Goldberg being retired moment. And yeah, so I mean, it's like, oh, what? And it was also the same. I don't know. And this was another missed opportunity. The summer was so compact for WWE. You know, another just whole complaint, just in that from like Backlash through Money in the Bank. There's like a PLE, like some kind of whether it's NXT, um, yeah, whether it's NXT or the main roster. I think WWE had something almost every end, or like 10 out of 12 weekends. There is something. Saturday night's main event, a main roster PLE, NXT PLE, something. So crazy. So crazy in fact that the earlier in the day, in the same city, I believe, that Saturday night's main event was also NXT's Great American Bash, and those are both competing against AEW's All Out or All In, on one of the two. I forget which, but and it was like, so wrestling fans were just like all over the place that day. So it's like that doesn't help anything. And again, that card specifically, we always remembered for the Rollins saying over the Goldberg thing, and it's just like, I don't know, it's sad, very sad.
I get it, man. No, it's not a bad choice at all. I completely understand.
So, all right, let's talk about some individual wrestlers. Or wait, we have our least favorite match here. We got to get to as well. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead of us.
Yeah.
Least favorite match, go.
Okay, so Dan, I'm gonna cheat. I'm sorry. Because I know that we're talking about WWE here, but I'm gonna cheat because my least favorite match of the year is not a WWE match. It is a TNA match.
Okay.
Because when you asked me to do this, and you said, "What's your least favorite match?" This was the first thing that popped into my head. It's the only thing that popped into my head, and it is the only correct answer for any of us who saw it. I'm just being honest, okay? Now, it has yet to play out to the end, but I will explain to you why this is the worst match as of right now. Could it be retconned, fixed as like, yeah, it's probably not as bad as what we thought, like kind of like the Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns when Cody Rhodes. I mean, that match was great, by the way. It was fantastic. Because I'm not saying that this one's close to that one in terms of quality, in terms of the actual wrestling, but like in terms of like, oh, what is the worst booking decision of all time? Cody Rhodes itself a year later, when obviously it was bigger and better and wonderful. So could that happen now? Maybe. But here's the match. So it was the TNA event at Full Sail. I was in live attendance. So I got to see this from 30 feet away, my friend. Mike Santana makes his first appearance as TNA champion. He just won the championship and then took a month off. Or TNA took a month off. He didn't even take a month off. Let me clarify. He did not win the championship and then take a vacation. That is not what he did. TNA did not have any shows for like a month or whatever it was. So he makes his first appearance, and he's interrupted by Ryan Nemeth. Obviously, Nick Nemeth's brother. That's how he says it. Sorry. Anyway, so they have a match where the TNA championship is on the line. And everybody in the world goes, oh, well, Mike Santana is going to kill Ryan Nemeth. This is going to be a silly, fun match where Mike Santana is going to beat the crap out of Ryan Nemeth, and we're all going to have a few giggles. And then, like, 45 seconds into the match, or maybe a little longer, maybe it was like 5 minutes. I don't remember exactly, but a few minutes into the match, a bunch of NXT guys swarm the ring and beat the crap out of Mike Santana and Ryan Nemeth. Frankie Kazarian walks down with his Call Your Shot trophy. He cashes it in. He pins Mike Santana to win the TNA championship. Mike Santana to take Trick Williams' TNA championship for 7 months. He lost the match that they had a one-on-one on NXT programming. Then they were at, I don't even remember what pay-per-view it was. I think it might have even, was it Bound for Glory? I think he won it at Bound for Glory. But they had a match in his hometown. It was in New York, where Mike Santana was from. He lost. Trick retained. Everybody was screaming at TNA, "What are you doing? He's in his hometown. How can you have him lose?" Only to a few months later, he gets another shot, and I'm pretty sure it was at Bound for Glory, which is basically WrestleMania. He gets another shot. He wins the championship after 3 attempts. Oh my God, it's this huge, beautiful moment in the fireworks and the confetti. And his daughter comes in the ring and he goes on his hands and knees and he hands her the championship and he bows down to her crying because the story with Mike Santana is that he was addicted to drugs and his daughter is the one that saved his life because his daughter is the one that forced him to get help. And now he's clean and he's turned his whole life around. And now he's TNA champion. He's accomplished his dream. And in his first appearance, all the NXT guys attack him. Basically, a Money in the Bank style cash in. Frankie Kazarian is your new champion, the guy who's been there for 28 years or however the hell long he's been there, and he's won the TNA championship like, I don't know, 3, 4, however many it is times at this point. I don't know. Maybe he's only won it. Maybe he's never won it. I don't freaking know. The point is, TNA, what is wrong with you? Like, why would you build for 7 months? Just immediately say, the climb is more fun than. No, the climb is not more fun when you take it away. When you, like, he plants the flag, he goes, "I am the champion," and then a hawk just comes out and hits him in the forehead and knocks him all the way back down to the base of the mountain. No, the climb is not more fun. It makes everybody sit there and go, "Why in the world did we even bother?" And that is what I'm telling you. I have never been in a crowd that chanted. I'm not going to say the word because obviously you're going to get demonetized here, but BS over and over and over and over and over again for minutes on end. I mean, everyone was furious that he lost that championship. And we were all just sitting there like, he was supposed to have a championship match tomorrow because they had a premium live event the next night. I don't even remember what it was called. He was supposed to defend the championship. That didn't happen because he lost it. And then there wasn't a TNA championship match on this premium live event. And then Mike Santana only showed up like 99% of the way into the show and then, got a pin in a tag match or whatever the hell it was. And I'm sitting there like, oh, this is horrible. This is horrible. Like, it was the worst booking decision I have ever seen. And it's not even close. Like, I saw it live. I literally turned to the guys that I was working with because, there were some wrestlers that were working security that day. Yes, guys, pulling down the curtain. A lot of the security people you see on NXT or TNA they are also wrestlers. Just so we're not, in case anybody's confused. I'm sitting there. I'm like, that might be the worst. That might be the worst decision I've ever seen in the history. Not in the history of wrestling, because there's been decisions that were worse in terms of impact, but just in terms of so unnecessarily stupid.
That's ridiculous.
I can't recall anything being this stupid that they did. I mean, it was all you had to do was just be normal. Like, you just had to be normal and have him go out and beat the comedy wrestler. And everybody goes home happy, and everybody's super excited for this premium live event that you have tomorrow. And then they didn't do that. And they took the title off of him, and everybody was like, what was the point of the last 6 months of our lives? What was the point of any of it? It was so bad, Dan. I can't talk enough about it. I can't possibly think of a WWE match that was worse than that. I just can't. It was horrible. It was the worst thing I've ever seen.
Anything that I thought of is nowhere close to that. The fact that, I mean, I have
So
been in that NXT crowd.
apparently a bug flew into my water, and so I went to drink it, and I just saw this giant brown thing. I was like, nope. So we're going sans water for the rest of this the rest of this recording.
I've only been in that NXT crowd once. It's a wonderful experience if anybody ever gets a chance to do it. You have to be there like 3 hours early. It's a wonderful experience. So this counts as a WWE match. One, it's TNA's WWE adjacent, and it's in the Performance Center, so it's in NXT. So I mean, it
Well,
works.
it wasn't in the performance center. They do it at Full
Oh,
Sail,
Full Sail.
where NXT used to be.
That's right. That's the
Yeah,
Full
yeah.
Sail episode. On top of that, like where they as an good grief. Um, but anyway, it's like it this works. This works for your requirement. I wasn't super strict on this. There's nothing I can think of that could anywhere close to that. And my stuff was more storyline based than just match based. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Because I remember you telling me probably a couple months before this even happened that the Mike Santana thing was kind of driving you nuts because, again, like you just mentioned, he was in his home state and still lost it.
Mhm. Yep.
And now, and it's just the fact that they would take it off of him. He's not any? Is he back as TNA champ yet, or no? Is he still?
Nope. No, he is. So he's basically like from last I haven't been keeping up with TNA as of the last like month. So to be fair, I'm a little behind. But last I remember, he was running through the NXT guys. Like he was basically like, like he had a match against Robert Stone and tapped him out or whatever the heck it was, and then I think he faced Lexus King or he faced Stax or one of these other guys. Like he was kind of like, I'm going to take you all out one by one, and then I'm going to go after my championship. So they haven't even. I don't even know what program Frankie Kazarian is in right now, to be honest. Like, because again, I'm a little behind. So like, I don't know what's going on with the TNA World Title, but I know that Mike Santana, as of last I saw, was not involved in it yet because he was trying to take away this NXT invasion. And it's
Yeah.
just like, and that's what made it even worse, where it was like you also had an NXT guy.
No, you probably
Dog,
can't say.
I'm not with all the lag. I'm not going to be able to
Yeah,
read that one.
Frankie's still NXT champion.
Or TNA. I knew that Frankie was still TNA champion. I
Yeah.
just didn't know like what. I didn't know like who he was facing or like what program he was in right now or what story they're telling with that title, if they're telling any. I don't even know. It might be like Nick Nemeth, maybe. I don't know, because I know that both of them they kind of co-won the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. So like Nick Nemeth was gone for that episode of Impact, and Frankie cashed it in without Nick Nemeth there.
That's
So
hilarious.
like maybe they're telling that story because like technically they both were supposed to get a shot and Frankie just took it for himself. So I don't know, maybe they're telling that. I don't know. But regardless, yeah, to me it just was like you the thing that made it also so much worse was you had a NXT superstar with a stranglehold over that TNA championship for months and months and months and months. And you sit there and go, who is the TNA guy that's going to be the conquering hero and take that title back? And then you destroyed that conquering hero on his. I can't stress this enough. First appearance after winning it. He didn't even hold it for a month or something. Like he technically did hold it for a month, but there was no tapings or live episodes for that full month. So there was just no TNA television.
Mhm.
And so it was literally like as if you had, it would be like if you made an AEW equivalent, if, you know, CM Punk went back to AEW, won the AEW championship, and then you built up like Will Ospreay to, who hasn't won the AEW world title yet, but that everybody really likes and is probably the best worker there in terms of like the actual like in-ring wrestling. You built him up for 6 months to take the championship. They went over to England, where he's from, and he still lost. And then, at All In, which is their WrestleMania, he wins the thing. And then the next Dynamite, he just loses it to freaking Samoa Joe, who, by the way, is AEW World. No, actually, no, he's not. MJF is world champion as of last weekend, I think. But like, no disrespect to Samoa Joe, I love Samoa Joe. But like, why would Samoa Joe need to beat Will Ospreay at that point? Like, you just built this guy up for 6 months, and then gave it to a guy who's already been a 2-time AEW World Champion, is like 40-something years old, and is kind of on his last legs in his career. And it's like, Frankie Kazarian's been there for like 20 years, dude. Like, nobody needed to see Frankie Kazarian be TNA World Champion again, or at all, if he hadn't won it. I'm pretty sure he had before, but I could be wrong, I guess. But the point is, it just made no sense. Why? And then to make it worse, again, with the NXT stranglehold thing, the NXT guys are the ones that cost Mike Santana the thing. And so you just sit there and go, okay, so no TNA superstar can ever be an NXT superstar without horrible, massive repercussions that destroy the entire TNA product. Like, I don't understand at all why any of this was a thing.
Yeah.
It just was so bad. And I know you haven't even gotten to your stuff yet, Dan, but I'm telling you, dude, it was something to be there, to hear the air just sucked out of that whole place, and then just to hear everybody chanting and booing and cursing. And oh my God, I was like, oh, this is bad. This is bad, 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 bad. Like,
Well, my answer is going to be a weird cop out of the Royal Rumble, in hindsight, especially of knowing what we know with the All Access documentary on Netflix, which is fascinating. I enjoyed it. But I'm almost kind of like this. It was like a couple peeks behind the curtain that I wish we wouldn't have known, unfortunately. And knowing some of that stuff just makes that decision. I get why the decision was made, but it just makes that decision that was made even more just confusing. And then the aftermath of how this year has gone now. Looking back at it, 11 months ago, about to come up on the next one here in 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. Man, that's coming quick, honestly. And just and just to be like, man, so that was probably my least favorite match, even though it's a 30-man Royal Rumble, um, just because of the ending of there. So, and that's all I'm gonna say, because I that's just a crying shame of what they did to Mike Santana. And I'm not really a person that watches a lot of TNA. You are probably the source of my TNA information. um, because and because from my 30,000 foot view, it's like, it's almost just like they're just WWE is treating the partnership. They don't even own TNA. They're treating the partnership with TNA as, we're just gonna pluck your best people and insert them into our programs, and we'll let you use them every once in a while, but they're going to be more of an our programs. Then eventually, when their contract signs up, Joe Hendry, we're going to bring them up to our roster. We're going to send them to our
yeah,
contract.
you do know that. By the way, I'll probably tell you the Joe Hendry stuff once we're not recording, just for the sake of secrecy here, and not getting anybody in trouble or anything,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not getting myself in trouble.
yeah.
But yeah, there's more to that that I've
Oh,
come to
I'm
know,
I'm
for sure.
sure. I'm not
But
surprised by that. You're making that comment at all. I'm not at all. But what all that just still say, it's like, man, it's a wrestler that's buying into a program that he's got to build himself up over 5, 6, 7 months to finally achieve his goal, and which is so meaningful in so many more ways personally, that I would have never have known without you saying something, or it's just, and then just have it taken away so quickly. I'm just like, why? Why would you do that? So yeah,
I don't know, Dan, and it was Rumble stuff, by the way. But this is the last thing I'll say about Mike Santana. I said second Trick Williams won that championship. I don't know if I said it to you specifically, kind of like kind of like a lot of wrestling fans. Like TNA just hasn't been very accessible. Like if you don't have TNA Plus, you're not really able to see what TNA is doing unless you're watching, a bunch of YouTube clips, and even then you're only getting, like you said, like a 37-foot view of it. So it's difficult. But like when Trick won that championship, the question immediately was who's going to dethrone Trick Williams? Because it's probably not going to be Joe Hendry. We all were like, it's probably not going to be Joe. Could be Moose, but he's a little older, so this might be his final year or final 2 years. I think he said his contract he's retiring, so we'll see with that. But like, who is going to be the guy that dethrones Trick? And I immediately said it had to be Mike Santana, because Mike Santana has never won the championship. He's ultimate good guy. He's really turned everything around. Like, he's not homegrown TNA talent, but he is everything that TNA wants to be and represents. And crucially, this is a guy that is very, very, very likable. He's got a great look. He's got a good move set. He's really good in the ring. He cuts really good promos. And now you know that he's reliable. He's straight as an arrow. He doesn't do drugs anymore. Like, he's not going to be a guy that you have to worry about being in that spotlight. Like, I was envisioning like a Joe Hendry-esque moment for Mike Santana where someone like AJ Styles, say, does an open challenge at WrestleMania. This is my last WrestleMania for AJ Styles. Who's going to face me? Mike Santana. Santana was good. And then he comes out through the WrestleMania crowd like he does at TNA, and that place is going nuts, introducing his opponent from the Bronx, New York, weighing in at, I don't remember what Mike Santana weighs, the TNA champion, Mike Santana. So you're getting AJ Styles versus the TNA world champion at WrestleMania. What a moment that could be. Could you still do it with Frankie Kazarian? It would probably mean a little more to AJ if you did that, because him and Frankie Kazarian have a ton of history. Like, they were friends and they were enemies. It was just a whole mess because, Frankie Kazarian, I don't remember what their tag was with Christopher Daniels, who's like AJ Styles, like that's his edge, right? Like John Cena has Edge as his like great rival, or like maybe a CM Punk or whatever. Like Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles, like that was TNA's version, right? So like Frankie Kazarian was in a tag team with Christopher Daniels a lot, so like they interacted a ton and all that stuff. So would it mean more to AJ if it was Frankie Kazarian? Maybe, but would fans have as big of a moment if Frankie Kazarian came out versus Mike Santana when he comes through the crowd and that really awesome music is playing and he's got I was envisioning all this, and to know I'm not going to get that for very controllable things that you didn't have to do is a crime shame. It really, really is a shame. Now, I'll talk about your Rumble stuff because I'm going to call you out here, Dan. I'm going to be a little mean.
Do it.
But I feel as if I've earned it at this point.
That's fine.
Given what's transpired. I love you, and I'm sorry. Okay. I seem to recall the night of the Rumble, after it was all over. I seem to recall a certain somebody texting me saying that they really, really enjoyed the fact that certain somebody won that Royal Rumble and that you thought it was the correct call. And crucially, because I don't think I've said this on air before. I don't think I've said this part because we've always constantly talked around this part, but I don't think I've actually said it. You and I were texting during the Rumble. We were getting down to the last few people in the Rumble. And I don't remember who. I think it was maybe Punk, Jay, and Cena. Maybe was the last three. I don't remember who the third guy was, but I remember saying, "Okay, it has to be Cena or whoever the other guy was."
Might have been.
Those are the only two options. And then you texted me saying, "Sorry, Dan, say that again."
And I don't think it was even Punk. It might have been even Logan. But anyway, yeah, keep going.
It might have been Logan Paul. I don't remember. It might have been Logan Paul. You might be right. But either way, that's not the person is irrelevant necessarily in that. I was just trying to remember. But I said it was Cena or whoever the other guy was. And then you said, no, Jay is a perfectly viable option to win this Royal Rumble. And my response isn't. That would be a terrible idea. So even during the match, I was saying, no, for the love of God, that would be a bad idea. Because once you put that spotlight on somebody, that main event spotlight, it 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 puts your work in a whole new category. And I'm sorry, but Jey Uso just doesn't have the move sets and the actual in-ring work of a main eventer. He just it's just a lot of super kicks and a couple of Samoan drops and a hip, just not a whole lot. Like that's fine if you're a popular mid-card title guy or a tag team guy. I've never complained about any of the positions that Jay was in before the world title. But that should be reserved for some guys. Like the fact that Jey Uso is a world champion and LA Knight isn't is disgusting to me. Like
Yes.
LA Knight should have been the guy that they put into that stratosphere, and they still haven't. And fans are starting to get to the point where they just are like, "What's the point of even believing in this guy anymore?" Because we're obviously not going to get it. Like they clearly don't believe, and I don't understand like why you did it one way, but you didn't do it the other way. Like he was arguably just as popular, if not more popular, than Jay was
Yes.
at one point. I mean, he
Yes.
was he took over the world of wrestling at one, and they never capitalized on it,
Yep.
and yet you chose to do this, and you had beatable champions, for LA Knight at the time. Like Roman was starting to get, that was starting to wind down. Now, obviously, you weren't going to have him beat Roman necessarily, but you know, you had a wounded Seth Rollins over on Monday Night Raw, who was just trying to make it, and then you had Drew McIntyre, and then you had Punk, and you had like AJ and Logan Paul and all those guys sniffing around that you could have that could have done something with it. But like you're telling me that you wouldn't have liked to see LA Knight beat Drew McIntyre for that championship, or a wounded Seth Rollins for that championship, or LA Knight versus CM Punk for that champion. Like you're telling me you couldn't envision those things at that time? Because I'm not saying now. I'm saying back then when LA Knight was getting the biggest reactions on the card from anybody. Like you're telling me people wouldn't have paid to see that? Of course they
Yeah.
would have.
Yeah.
So it just that bothered me more. So I had to call you out a little bit.
And then that's fine. I have no problem with you doing that. I've full
I think I think I think though. Go ahead.
I wholeheartedly will admit I jumped in that Dre chain with a lot of people, and before I started to realize, wow, he's gas so quick. No wonder he has such a long entrance, and he has such a long ring time, and he runs it back, and the move set, I thought when he started adding spear to his moves, it's a Samoan drop, it's a spear, and it's an Uso splash. The Uso splash is sometimes billed as his finisher, which I'm like, what? And the more and more I watch it, and I see it, I'm just like, oh my word, I see this. I just took a long time to get on board with you and Joe. And I have no problem admitting that. I thought it was, I they and then when they did it, they should have done a lot of other things surrounding the stories of other people.
Mhm.
But I mean, I never quite understood even why they hot shotted the IC title off of him so quickly, because I was like, man, we're gonna get him as IC champion for 5, 6, maybe even 8 months. Have him pick it up at a whatever he wanted and carry it through a SummerSlam or Money in the Bank or something, and then have him lose it something to there. But they hot shotted that off him so quickly. I was like, that's so weird. But yeah, he is a perfect mid Carter. He comes across as a mid Carter because your mid Carters are usually your, I don't want to say more fun guys, but the world title scene is your serious wrestlers. And they just try to push him too high, and it didn't work. And well, like we said at the start of the show, now he's back to the tag division, which Gunther has thankfully recovered from a lot of that from earlier in the year, which I know you have shared your fears of, and part of that is probably because he had to take time off for 2 3 months, whatever how much every time he took off there, and so that probably helped that. But yeah, it's thankfully he's recovered from that. But man, like we're gonna look back on this Jey Uso main event run, and I don't even know if they call him main event Jey Uso much anymore. I think he's announced as that, but I don't. I feel like it's not as pushed, and I feel like that moniker isn't as pushed by everybody like it is the ring announcer. But I figured her name out, Alicia. And it's just, and then
Yeah,
and
the
then
fact that we are
And then they were gonna try to get something with like him and Roman. Then Roman, took time off again. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no again the lag. It's hard
It's hard. It's
sometimes.
horrible for both of us.
Yeah. So like the fact that Gunther has basically been retconned back to what he was before Jay. Like we are now expected to treat him as if the Jay stuff and the Punk stuff, in a way,
Mm.
never even happened. Like it felt to me when they gave him his old music back. Oh, first of all, oh my god, I about cried because it's the most underrated theme song of in wrestling history. Because when that music hit for the first time, when he interrupted Pete Dunne at NXT UK, everyone on earth that watched that went, yep, yeah, he's the man. Most people probably didn't even know who he was before he walked out there in terms of that audience, not necessarily in terms of wrestling fans, but in terms of like the NXT audience. That was their first look at him, and they went, "Oh no, who that man is going to murder Pete Dunne. That's not good." Because like that's just what that music does. That's what his entrance does. It made him who he is. And so now the fact that we are basically treating Jay as if what he is who he was back in 2023, and then supposed to be treating Gunther as if he is who he was back in 2023, basically during his IC title dominant, like unstoppable monster run. That tells you right there, this was a horrible decision that should have never been made. Jay should never have won the Rumble. He should never have faced Gunther. He should never have beaten Gunther, because basically now we are back to what it was before any of that happened. That should tell you the company has realized that they made a terrible mistake, and they are trying to basically wipe it from existence moving forward. Because as I kind of said to you, I think it was even on air, like if you sat there and you said which one of these two guys is going to carry the company forward for the next 5 to 10 years, is it Gunther, is it Jey Uso? And even you at that time were like, yeah, it's Gunther. I went, okay, well then why is Gunther losing right now? What sense does any of this make? You don't sacrifice Mookie Betts at 23 years old for Adrian Gonzalez at 36. You don't make that trade if you're the Red Sox. Drake May for Patrick for not for Patrick Mahomes. You might, but you don't trade him for Aaron Rodgers at 40. You don't. That's stupid. No one makes that trade,
42.
even if, which you can't make the argument, obviously. But let's just say Aaron Rodgers had a slightly better year than Drake May this year. You're still not making that trade because Drake May's 23.
Mm-hmm.
And Gunther's, not 23 or anything. I'm not saying that, but like,
Yeah.
if that's the guy who you're going to build a franchise around, you're not trading that for 6 months of Jey Uso. And I said that then. I'm saying it now. It was stupid, and I just don't understand it. But okay, I'm done. I promise. I know we've got to get to
Yeah, we got a lot to get through still. So
our favorite wrestlers of the year.
yeah, I'd say we do these fairly quickly. I might have, hopefully in the
Yeah.
text I sent to you guys. I was thinking of just best male and female stars, and did I include breakout male and female WWE
Yes, you
stars?
did. Yep, you did.
Okay. And so yeah, best male and female WWE stars and breakout male and female stars. Um, if you're fine with it, I'll just kind of go through my four really quick. Kind of mention them. Outside of maybe one name, we've kind of talked a lot about these people before. So on the best male, to me, uh, I mean, I look at a few. Braun was up there. Seth Rollins on me. Braun, especially in the last few months, really really good on the mic. But that's really just been the last few months. Um, and then like, I kind of want, obviously we're looking at the year as a whole. And boy, I know I'm probably gonna forget someone, and it's hard not to. Boy, actually now I'm changing. Drew's I think in a consideration there. And Cody obviously. Because it's become such a good, enjoyable heel. I mean, like he says a lot of 90% truth. You know what I mean? So it's an enjoyable heel for me. Um, But I think best male star for me has to go to for WWE. Has to go CM Punk. I just don't see how it's really not him. He's been on good as he's. I wasn't watching WWE, and I've said this multiple times when he was his prime run with WWE. So I know that we're not seeing the 2010s version, 22 late 2000s version of CM Punk. In this iteration of Punk. Um, and some of his promos have lacked little fire that others have, but he has put promo against promo. He's been in multiple fatal four-way matches, multiple multi-man matches, multiple tag matches, multiple tsunamis, multiple spears, especially in recent weeks. I feel like he has been surrounded by Braun and Bronson for the last seven, since post Mania. So it's constant with them. And I mean, him and Seth have put on excellent matches with each other. The hatred, it's one of those things where it's like, is it truly real, or are they both really really good at saying they hate each other? But it's like that's one of those where it's like it's probably a little bit of truth behind them. Um, so to me, I can't. I think there's a lot of worthy names there, but I feel like as a whole for the year, Punk has to be number one for me. Best female star for me, I think is Io Sky. I think Rhea Ripley's right up there. Stephanie McCare's right up there. Her rise very quickly. Um, but I think even Chelsea Green even deserves a mention with the women's U.S. Championship. She was a very good, annoying heel, annoying champion. And annoying. You want to get on people's nerves when you're a heel and stuff, and she did it in a very different way, but a very good way to try to bring a new title to the women's scene. Which, well, that we have issues there still. But that we'll shed for another time. But I come down to EO. I think I think you have mentioned this before. I think the universe as a whole for WWE is starting to see, wow, she is really good at what she does. Um, the in ring work. She'll take bumps. She'll go up against a bigger one, bigger wrestlers. She isn't afraid of anybody. She's definitely a high flyer. Always the trash can. She's been in every single women's War Games matches at the NXT and main roster level. I think on both sides, men and women, she's the only person that can say that, especially the men. But I think for a female, I think she's the only one that can say that. So I mean, she's just fun. We got a whole little emoticon with her and stuff like that. She's just yeah, she's just crazy fun. She's just fun to watch. And she's
Yeah.
put on a lot of really good matches this year as well. So I think best female of the year has to go to Io for me. Breakout male. I was really thinking. I feel like a lot of the main roster guys, whether it's mid card or main roster, have either we know about them on the main roster, or some of the guys that could maybe qualify this are hurt, currently hurt, or hurt for a decent amount of time this year. Um, and actually, the guy that I'm choosing here was hurt for a few months at the beginning of the year as well. Um, but I feel that um, it was hard for me not to choose some NXT guys. I've really started to like Javon Evans. Oba is just a monster. In so stuff like that. It's um, to me, and it's Bronson Reed is my pick here. For breakout male star.
Oh,
Just because I think a big part of it for me is he's one of the few guys in the last 5 years to pin doesn't have the last name of Uso. um, so to me, that's as much of a Roman stan as I am. That's just a big, hey, big Cena move of putting someone over kind of thing, um, in a sense. And I think that Reed is just sort of the strong silent. He doesn't have to say much, and when he does, he just like oof, the tribal thief moniker is kind of cool. I don't like it, but I like it too at the same time. One of those weird heel things. I think Oba, Javon, Leon, other and even TNA guys. It's I think there's a lot of good ones there, but I feel like Bronson Reed is kind of again, if it wasn't for the pinning Roman thing, I think I would have a hard time kind of trying to find a breakout male star. But Bronson is who I'm going for there. Breakout female. I kind of wanted to jump on the Sol Ruka train. I feel like the last few months for her have really been good. Have treated her slam. She's gotten a lot of main roster looks and stuff. I think she's involved in the hey, she might be called up soon kind of type of discussions. Um, but I think I'd be very unintelligent if I didn't say Stephanie Becker. Stephanie Becker was double champ in NXT, pushed the main roster very quickly after that, and is already the women's champion. And it was probably not the way that they originally wanted to do it, because of Naomi. But at the same time, they still decided to go that route, even if the journey was a little bit different, which they're good. Now it's just a matter of let's actually get good title defense with her. You got Bailey, you got Asuka, you got you got Rhea, you got Io. You can go to Io again. You got Liv, you've got Roxanne, you can go to Raquel for a one-on-one. Just don't be Nikki Bella anymore. Let's get outside of the Nikki Bella stuff and get good title defenses for her, and to really solidify her as a champion. It's kind of a point of like who's going to take it off for kind of at this point. But let that fester, let that manifest. It'll work. Let her have a good long title run, but give her more than just Nikki Bella, please, soon. Um, it's just crazy with there. So unless I'm just missing someone, I can't not say Stephanie McCare because I mean the rise has been meteoric for her. Seen a lot of a lot of that kind of from you, because you were one to kind of say watch out for her. What she's they're gonna they're gonna push her soon, push her quick, and I think just it's being evident and it's going well for her.
all those picks are great picks, man. I'm gonna agree with. I'm gonna repeat some of them. So certainly you and I are on very similar pages here. So I think the to do this is I am going to pick like basically have a main roster category of each of these and then a NXT category of each of these because it's really hard to quantify the between in NXT and then breaking out on the main roster because like clearly breaking out on the main roster is like more powerful or better than breaking out in NXT, but that would then just immediately discount anybody who has gone from whatever they were to wherever they're at now in NXT and improving because like all you could do is the best with what you're given. And if what you're given is stuff in NXT and you knock it out of the park, you should get recognized for that. And so that's the way I'm going to do it. I'll give an NXT answer and a WWE main roster answer for each of these. So best male wrestler uh, in NXT. I think the obvious answer here. It's not even particularly close. The answer is Obafemi. He had a ridiculous year. He was NXT champion for just about the entirety of 2025. He only has one blemish on his record, one loss, losing to Ricky Saints, and then obviously gets the NXT championship back and has a match against the world champion, against Cody Rhodes, against the QB1 himself, looking all dominant. You could easily pick Obafemi for breakout male wrestler of the year just across the board. You could, if you picked him to be your guy as breakout wrestler of the year, I would not fault you for 1 second, but I'm going to have him be the best NXT male wrestler of the year. You said multiple times, Dan, that you were going to forget someone. Perhaps you did forget him, but perhaps maybe you're just not realizing the of where this guy was versus where he is now in terms of best wrestler of the year. Who is the guy that, as we are heading into 2026, we are going to be talking about the most? The guy that the most majority of fan base thinks is probably going to have a great 2026. A guy who, dare I say, may even be world champion in 2026. Someone who you did not mention. Dirty Dominic Mysterio. That man, let me tell you about Dominic Mysterio. This is a guy who was written off when he first started wrestling in 2020 during the pandemic because he was bad at it. He had no personality. He had no character. He really wasn't all that good of a worker. And everybody kind of went, oh no. Oh, I don't think this kid's going to make it. I get it. He's Ray's kid and they want him to succeed. But boy, howdy, does he not have anything to offer? He can't cut a promo. He can't really work all that well. I don't know what his character is. Oh no. Oh. To go from that to where he is today is insane how much better he has gotten. And in 2026, Dominic Mysterio beat Braun Breaker, Finn Balor, LA Knight, AJ Styles, John Cena, just to name a few. This is somebody who, when you talk about, had the best year of any male wrestler. You can make the argument CM Punk, obviously, with the SummerSlam win, and then obviously winning the world. He's won the world title twice. Yes, I understand. You could talk about Gunther and how great of a year he's had. All the great quality work. He just retired John Cena. He just retired Goldberg. That all happened this year. Fantastic work. I know that we may not like how it turned out, but you can mention Jey Uso. Jey Uso had a huge first half of 2026 and obviously lost the title back to Gunther and has kind of tailed off a little bit ever since, but has still put out quality work. He still sold a ton of merch. He was still super popular. Right. So you could say Jey Uso too. But for me, my pick, it is Dominic Mysterio. I don't think anybody put together as quality of a body of work from January 1st to December 31st, where he was on TV every week. He was main eventing AAA shows, winning their world title as well, by the way, just in case we're forgetting about AAA. You know, this is a guy who has been Intercontinental Champion for just about the entirety of the year. Obviously, he lost it to Cena and then got it back, but basically was Intercontinental Champ from April until now. So he's had a championship all year long. He's in a prominent story every single week on Raw. I don't think you're going to find somebody who had a better year start to finish. Dominic Mysterio. Best female wrestlers now. You took the words pretty much right out of my mouth in terms of best female wrestler, because as much as I want to take Stephanie, because nobody's had a better year in wrestling, by the way, than Stephanie McCare. Nobody. You could put her year up against anybody in any company. Nobody has had a better year, start to finish, than Stephanie. You name to name it again, all the championships and moving up through all the levels. Unreal how quickly she ran through everything that WWE has to offer. But man, Io Sky is just the best. She's the best wrestler on planet Earth. She just is. I've said it for years how good this woman is. She is the best in-ring wrestler in any company of any gender, anywhere. Io Sky. When you say who is the best women's wrestler, who was the best women's wrestler in 2025? It was Io Sky. Who's probably going to be the best women's wrestler in 2026? It's still probably going to be Io Sky. She may not even fight for a championship for all of 2026. I don't care. She is the best until somebody takes that crown from her. It may be Stephanie in 2026. We'll see, because Stephanie is well on her way. But my goodness, Io Sky. That's the only answer for me. NXT, best female wrestler in NXT. This is a hard one because I kind of want to still say Stephanie. Because forget she was in NXT for a long time, for half the year, right? And she did more in that half a year than anybody else did in 2026. Fantastic year in just 6 months, right? So I think I'm gonna say Stephanie because I have another pick for breakout wrestler of the year that I will explain later on for NXT for the female for the ladies. Okay, breakout men's, breakout men for the year. Could have said Dominic Mysterio for that one too, by the way, but I'm not going to, because for me, this is where Braun Breaker comes into play. I think Braun Breaker started the year as Intercontinental Champ. I think he won it I don't think he won it at the beginning of 2025. I think he won it like right at the end of 2024. So technically he did start the year as champion, but it was pretty fresh. Basically like essentially he won it right at the beginning of the year. WrestleMania, immediately went to the main event. Immediately went with Paul Heyman, immediately was doing all these big programs, and by the way, had the most viral moment at the Rumble, spearing IShow Speed out of his freaking soul. But this is a guy that just did a little bit of everything. Had his first WrestleMania match that I can recall, right? I think it was his first WrestleMania match, right?
Yeah.
So his first WrestleMania match, lost his championship, it didn't get pinned. Boo-hoo, it is what it is.